you almost had it. You said big push, isn't it?
And the winner is @blue_palold.
Hi, it's me. Hi, everybody. I remembered to do the microphone right this time. Hello. My lights, not so much. But, hi, it's me, Charlie. And, so we had a lot of fun yesterday doing Jurassic Park. So I thought maybe we'd do a little more, and see where this takes us. Also, I love that my hair is barely grown back in and it's already sweeping this way. Even though my cowlick is this way and it should be going this way. Anyway, so while I was off stream yesterday, what I did was I was working. I have some other tabs open with some more of the dinosaurs that I have to copy paste in there, but there's only like 3 left. 3 more dinosaurs left to find, but I thought it was important that we keep track of the dinosaurs and everything. I have a map. That way we could like put the characters where they are on the map. A continuation of Rocket Launcher Story? Yes, Rocket Launcher Romance is back on. Also, that's a sick name for a badge. But I thought it would be a really, really good idea to have all of the pictures and all of the dinosaurs and all of the characters all together so we can track everybody as the story goes on. So while we're listening to Grant and Ellie's story, I'm going to continue uploading the dinosaurs and making sure I put all their names on them properly and not fudge this up in any way, shape, or form. I already forget some of their names. But I thought this would be very, very helpful. I found a few maps, but this one seemed to be like the best one, in my opinion. I guess maybe I could turn it sideways. I'll just have to like do this. It's fine. Let me do, hold on, let me do this. Tools, let me get a pencil. Let's change the color to dark blue. Let's put it here. Do this. This. And we're gonna do north. East. South. And west, okay? Just to orient ourselves. This is the north. That looks like a W. Hold on. Let's try this again, shall we? Okay. North. Oh, wait. Plus sign. I should not have made it that big at the top. Okay. Okay, so this is north. This is east. That is south. Jesus Christmas. There, that's... better. South, and this is west, right? So, south, north, east. Yeah, I saw one of the new seasons of I saw one of the new seasons of King of Hill. Is it good? I heard the blonde chicks love, not the blonde chick, Hank's daughter loves, China, and she's like a communist and shit, and I was like, hell yeah, this is sick, brother. Okay, I think that's good. I think that's good. You mean Luann? Yeah, I think that's her name, the blonde one. All right, did I grab a picture of this one? No. Luann's not his daughter? Wait, who's Luann? Is that the sister? He took in Luann because her parents were unfit or something? Oh, okay. I don't know that much King of the Hill lore. Okay, so there's 2 Tyrannosaurs in this book. So we're gonna have to make sure we get at least 2 Tyrannosaur pictures. Well, that's obviously going in this. She's Peggy's niece. Oh, okay. Is Peggy Hank's wife? Yeah, okay. I'll learn all this lore one day. Okay. There's a bunch of velociraptors, but I think there's like... We'll do one main one and then like a pack, because like, the pack is like a side character. I used to watch these shows constantly. I just like, I never gravitated towards them, but I don't shame anybody who has. Everybody's got to learn something from somewhere, right? Okay, now we need like a velociraptor pack. Okay. This page is gonna become overburdened. I was a Cartoon Network kid and they were on Adult Swim. Yeah, Cartoon Network was great when I was a kid. I really liked it. It wasn't until recently where I was starting to get into Disney. And it's mostly been shows like Amphibia, Gravity Falls, Bluey that have got me back into Disney. Cartoon Network I feel is like a little lacking, but I'm sure it'll get its footing again. All right, we're gonna do one of these at a time because I'm gonna forget. This one. And see, this is why I saved this page. I used to watch all three Titans, but it was mostly Cartoon Network when it was cool. Wait, what all three? Oh, Nickelodeon, Disney, and Cartoon Network. I don't want the hyperlink. How about we don't? Yeah, there we go. Hold on, I have a better idea. Is there a way to... Yeah, ungroup. Yes. Yes! Nickelodeon has always been kind of stinky though. Yeah, it's been tough with them. I feel like even their like live action shit like iCarly and stuff, just like, it wasn't that great. Next. No. This is the Procomsognathus. I didn't even have to look at it. It's a copy. Compy. Compy. Zero. Thank you. -0. No, thank you. Wait, I need to make this, like, pink, right? Yeah, good enough. I love the bubblegum pink. I'm not even gonna lie. Those are some cool lizards. They're not lizards, they're birds. And these will come in very handy. The new season of the oh yeah, we were talking about King of the Hill. The new season of King of the Hill is pretty good so far. What is it about? Tell me everything. This is Carnotaurus. It's mostly Hank and Peggy trying to find out how everything is now that when they're coming back to Arlene from Saudi Arabia. What? Carnotaurus. Wait. Is it not actually in here? Oviraptor. Oh wait, is it this? No. No. Yeah, no, that's not the Apatosaurus. Did I look at the wrong thing? They're moving to Arlene, Texas from Saudi Arabia, and they're trying to figure out America now. That's similar to the plot of, I guess maybe he's not in here. That's kind of like, South Park. Because South Park, you know, it's Saddam Hussein in Trump skin, but... It's just like Uno reverse, kind of. Like from the other perspective. I thought Arlene was a person for a second. That's why I was so confused. No. No, wait, that's right. That's Hymphosumbulopodus. Itchy. This is gonna get tricky in a little bit. Hydrosaurs. Oh wait, no, that's not what that is. Is it a Maiasaur? Oh my god. It's not a Hadrosaur. You could live. No. Those aren't, no, that's not the Hadrosaur. Maiasaur? Maiasaur. I could just look at the file names, maybe. That would help. I wish I had like the original list I was looking at. It's, the formatting's very different. On my phone versus the computer, which is frustrating. Anyway, so what did you like most about the episode for King of the Hill? Lizard? No, they're birds. Ah! We're listening to Jurassic Park, but I gotta make up character sheets so it's easier to follow the plot. And then, okay, so we're also gonna do two things. We're gonna listen to the first half of the book, and when we get done the first half of the book, we're gonna do a tier list. And the tier list is gonna be like where we rate all the characters and how much we like them. Okay? And then the second thing we're gonna do is when we listen, after we're done part 2, we're gonna do a tier list on what our favorite death was. Okay? I think those are very important things, and I would like to do them with you guys, please. I deleted the link! The rocket launcher is my favorite character so far. You haven't even met them yet. Lizards rock. Bobby has his own restaurant now? How old is Bobby? Coelophycus. Wait. Is this the... No. The Coelophycuses, they run like birds. Am I gonna have to go to like the chapters? 21 somehow. I'm 1 year old. Does he still look the same though? Like, is he still like the same, like everything? The Coelophycus. Maybe they aren't in this. Alright, we'll come back to the Coelophycus. This is a Hadrosaur. Yes, I know I could have found better pictures, but I wanted to find the funniest. Yeah, he kind of looks older and like a young adult. Oh, nice. It's cool that they age the characters up. I always appreciate when things do that. Oh, you're not grouped. You're grouped. You're grouped. You're grouped. You're grouped. Okay. Next. The Raptor Squad. The Raptor Squad. This is gonna be a fucking nightmare for anybody who's gonna watch this on the VOD. Oh my... It slipped. Oh my god. Okay, this is the smart one. Hell yeah, Raptor Squad and Rocket Launcher team up. I think they actually do. It's been a really long time since I've read this, but I think they actually do. Are any of the members of the Raptor Squad a pastor? I think that's what happens after they get napalmed. I'm pretty sure that's what happens. They're like, you know what? It's time to get the band back together. We're going to church. Okay, I'm gonna have to move some of these. They're getting a little too big. I'm so itchy. Okay, this is gonna be, I think this is gonna be baby T-Rex. Okay, and then we got Rexy. So this one is known as Rexy in the books. So I do want to just continue with that name. They're looking Rexy, all right. Hey, kill me. Hell yeah, chunky Rexy. Thought you might like that. All right. So we're gonna do the Triceratops. We're almost done, I promise. It's gonna be worth it. It's gonna be worth it. Maybe we'll just do Stego next. Oh, we got it. Oh, we did the Velociraptors. I feel like we've done all the important ones that come up pretty early on. I think that's all the ones we need right now. I'm playing Minecraft while watching this again. I think that's incredible. All right. So what I'm going to do is when a creature needs to come up on the... Wow. When a creature needs to come up on the map, I'm going to just copy and paste it over to the map. And then we'll go from there. The Raptor Squad. Ah. All right. Oh. All right, let's get to the book, shall we? So, last we left off, we found out that this book is technically written as though it is entered into the docket of a law filing, due to the fact that it talks about how there were 20 witnesses and only 5 of those remain alive. It talks about how it was partially the weather's fault and a couple of other things. And we also we just finished up going through the step-by-step of both how we end up in Jurassic Park, and also what the community is going through because of Jurassic Park. So that's where we're at. We just got to the dig site of Grant. Dr. Allen. Wait, I gotta...
Allen.
So we've got Dr. Alan Grant, and we're about to meet Ellie Sattler, if we haven't already. I forgot where we left off last night. Because after I finished in here, I went back inside and listened to the rest of the story. I'm like way ahead with my partner. We've been listening to it for a while now, and I was like, damn, I really want to talk to people. So I just decided to stream it. But I have a lot of commentary and a lot of things to add, and I'm excited. And this has been really fun. And I had a blast yesterday. And for the first time in a little while, I was excited to stream today. So I was like, you know what? We're going to do this again. We're going to come in it with pictures. This is the worst. Raptor. All right.
At that time, there were thin clouds in the sky overhead, darkened by the smoke of nearby volcanoes. The atmosphere was denser, richer in carbon dioxide. Plants grew rapidly along the shoreline. There were no fish in these waters, but there were clams and snails. Pterosaurs swooped down to scoop algae from the surface. A few carnivorous dinosaurs prowled the swampy shores of the lake, moving among the palm trees. And offshore was a small island, about 2 acres in size. Ringed with dense vegetation, this island formed a protected sanctuary.
Lizard. Yo, Mr. Hippo. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I have to do narrator voice. You're right. I accidentally closed out of that tab earlier. All right, so this is narrator. I wish I could make it like, how do I make it full screen? Grid view. No, not like that. Oh, wait, hold on. Wait, what if I do this and then tab over to here? Okay, no. Hmm. I don't want to click on anything. Deselect. Go away. No. It was going so well. Okay, better. Perfect. Okay, so per Blue's wishes, the narrator of Jurassic Park, William Roberts, is being played by Mr. Hippo from Five Nights at Freddy's.
Alan.
Herbivorous, duck-billed dinosaurs laid their eggs in communal nests and raised their squeaking young. Over the millions of years that followed, the pale green alkaline lake grew shallower and finally vanished.
Although
The
this
exposed land buckled and
is
cracked.
technically, this is Grant's POV. Grant is thinking this right now. And we also forgot, I have to fix the beard that was on Grant. Mr. Hippo's dialogue is hilarious. Because in the games, he just keeps going on and on about random things. I mean, that's kind of like a narrator, I guess. That's pretty spot on. Can we make you the background, Dr. Grant?
Under the heat, and the offshore island with its dinosaur eggs became the eroded hillside in northern Montana, which Alan Grant was now excavating. "Hey, Alan!"
Alan!
He stood, a barrel-chested, bearded man of 40. He heard the chugging of the portable generator and the distant clatter of the jackhammer cutting into the dense rock on the next hill. He saw the kids working around the jackhammer, moving away the big pieces of rock after checking them for fossils. At the foot of the hill, he saw the 6 teepees of his camp, the flapping mess tent, and the trailer that served as their field laboratory. And he saw Ellie, waving to him from the shadow of the field laboratory. "Visitor!" she called, and pointed to the east. Grant saw the cloud of dust, and the blue Ford sedan bouncing over the rutted road toward them. He glanced at his watch. Right on time. On the other hill, the kids looked up with interest. They didn't get many visitors in Snakewater, and there had been a lot of speculation about what a lawyer from the Environmental Protection Agency would want to see Alan Grant about. But Grant knew that paleontology, the study of extinct life, had in recent years taken on an unexpected relevance to the modern world. The modern world was changing fast, and urgent questions about the weather, deforestation, global warming, or the ozone layer often seemed answerable, at least in part, with information from the past, information that paleontologists could provide. He had been called as an expert witness twice in the past few years. Grant started down the hill to meet the car. End of side 1.
Oh. So this is the complete and unabridged CDs. Each side is a new CD and or would be a new cassette.
Side 2. The visitor coughed in the white dust as he slammed the car
Oh, my button didn't work. Oh, because all the sounds are messed up.
door. "Bob Morris, EPA," he said, extending his hand. "I'm with the San Francisco office." Grant introduced himself and said, "You look hot. Want a beer?" "Jesus, yeah." Morris was in his late 20s, wearing a tie and pants from a business suit. He carried a briefcase. His wingtip shoes crunched on the rocks as they walked toward the trailer. When I first came over the hill, I thought this was an
there's
Indian
a boomer around here.
reservation, Morris said, pointing to the teepees. No, Grant said, just the best way to live out here. Grant explained that in 1978, the first year of the excavations, they had come out in North Slope octahedral tents, the most advanced available, but the tents always blew over in the wind. They tried other kinds of tents with the same result. Finally, they started putting up teepees, which were larger inside, more comfortable, and more stable in wind. These are Blackfoot teepees built around 4 poles, Grant said. Sioux teepees are built around 3, but this used to be Blackfoot territory, so we thought. Uh-huh, Morris said, very fitting. He squinted at the desolate landscape and shook his head. How long you been out here? About 60 cases, Grant said. When Morris looked surprised, he explained, We measure time in beer. We start in June with 100 cases. We've gone through about 60 so far. 63 to be exact, Ellie Sattler said as they...
I have a pair of sneakers from 1977. That's older than me. That's almost as old as my dad.
reached the trailer. Grant was amused to see Morris gaping at her. Ellie was wearing cut-off jeans and a work shirt tied at her midriff. She was 24 and darkly tanned. Her blonde hair was pulled back. Ellie keeps us going, Grant said, introducing her. She's very good at what she does. What does she do? Morris asked. Paleobotany, Ellie said. And I also do the standard field preps. She opened the door and they went inside.
I can't find the right beard.
The air conditioner...
I'm gonna start going up to people and saying, my shooters are older than you. That would be a really weird thing to do to people in real life.
Conditioning in the trailer only brought the temperature down to 85 degrees, but it seemed cool after the midday heat. The trailer had a series of long wooden tables with tiny bone specimens neatly laid out, tagged and labeled. Farther along were ceramic dishes and crocks. There was a strong odor of vinegar. Morris glanced at the bones. I thought dinosaurs were big, he said. They were, Ellie said, but everything you see here comes from babies. Snake water is important primarily because of the number of dinosaur nesting sites here. Until we started this work, there were hardly any infant dinosaurs known. Only one nest had ever been found in the Gobi Desert. We've discovered a dozen different hadrosaur nests, complete with eggs and bones of infants. While Grant went to the refrigerator, she showed Morris the acetic acid baths, which were used to dissolve away the limestone from the delicate bones. They look like chicken bones, Morris said, peering into the ceramic dishes. Yes, she said, they're very bird-like. And what about those? Morris said, pointing through the trailer window to piles of large bones outside, wrapped in heavy plastic. Rejects, Ellie said. Bones too fragmentary when we took them out of the ground. In the old days, we just discard them, but nowadays we send them for genetic testing. Genetic testing? Morris said. Here you go, Grant said, thrusting a beer into his hand. He gave another to Ellie. She chugged hers, throwing her long neck back. Morris stared.
God, stop being so thirsty.
We're pretty informal here, Grant said. Want to step into my office? Sure, Morris said. Grant led him to the end of the trailer, where there was a torn couch, a sagging chair, and a battered end table. Grant dropped onto the couch, which creaked and exhaled a cloud of chalky dust. He leaned back, thumped his boots up on the end table, and gestured for Morris to sit in the chair. Make yourself comfortable. Grant was a professor of paleontology at the University of Denver, and one of the foremost researchers in his field, but he had never been comfortable with social niceties. He saw himself as an outdoor man, and he knew that all the important work in paleontology was done outdoors with your hands. Grant had little patience for the academics, for the museum curators, for what he called teacup dinosaur hunters.
Damn,
and he
so
took some pains to distance himself in dress and behavior from the
Yo, are you on Canva? I am on Canva. It's the only other thing I know how to use other than MS Paint. I usually just wait for the free trial, and then I sign up for the free trial. And then I make everything I can before I get the free trial. And then as soon as I get the free trial, I immediately download it and make everything else I can. And then once the free trial expires, I just wait again. I use Canva for a lot of my streaming stuff too. All my overlays are Canva. Everything that was here that I took down now because I just felt like I felt like my screen was too cluttered and it was bothering me. So, but I use Canva for like everything. My starting student screen. That's all Canva. I made that. Or my BRB is the same thing, but I changed it for every season. So every season there's going to be a different one of these guys, but I made all 4 of them at the same time. And then downloaded it.
Teacup dinosaur hunters, even delivering his lectures in jeans and sneakers. Grant watched as Morris primly brushed off the seat of the chair before he sat down. Morris opened his briefcase, rummaged through his papers, and glanced back at Ellie, who was lifting bones with tweezers from the acid bath at the other end of the trailer, paying no attention to them. "You're probably wondering why I'm here." Grant nodded. "It's a long way to come, Mr. Morris." "Well," Morris said, "to get right to the point, the EPA is concerned about the activities of the Hammond Foundation. You receive some funding from them." $30,000 a year, Grant said, nodding. "For the last 5 years. "What do you know about the foundation?" Morris said. Grant shrugged. "The Hammond Foundation is a respected source of academic grants. They fund research all over the world, including several dinosaur researchers. I know they support Bob Carey out of the Tyrrell in Alberta and John Weller in Alaska, probably more. Do you know why the Hammond Foundation supports so much dinosaur research?" Morris asked. "Of course, it's because old John Hammond is a dinosaur nut." "You've met Hammond?" Grant shrugged. "Once or twice. He comes here for brief visits. He's quite elderly."
Because unorganized chests are agony, I am now working on organizing my storage room for on Minecraft because unorganized chests are agony. Oh, why? Oh, wait. Why does he do that? Hobby does the same thing. He organizes all of his stuff. It's quite beautiful. If you guys can ever link up for a game, I think you two would have like a serotonin buzzing moment. You know, your brain cell would be ping-ponging off of the serotonin.
You know, and eccentric, the way rich people sometimes are, but always very enthusiastic. Why?
Why?
Well, Morris said,
I play Bedrock. I think he does too. I don't know. If he pops in a chat, I'm sure he'll tell us, or we can ask him.
"The Hammond Foundation is actually a rather mysterious organization." He pulled out a Xeroxed world map marked with red dots and passed it to Grant. "These are the digs the Foundation financed last year. Notice anything odd about them? Montana, Alaska, Canada, Sweden. They're all sites in the north. There's nothing below the 45th parallel." Morris pulled out more maps. "It's the same year after year. Dinosaur projects to the south in Utah or Colorado or Mexico never get funded. The Hammond Foundation only supports cold weather digs. We'd like to know why." Grant shuffled.
My current base is a canyon base or a mini canyon base. That's really cool.
Through the maps quickly. If it was true that the Foundation only supported cold weather digs,
water.
Then it was strange behavior because some of the best dinosaur researchers were working in hot climates and there are other puzzles, Morris said. For example, what is the relationship of dinosaurs to amber? Amber? Yes, it's the hard yellow resin of dried tree sap.
Mr. Hippo is my favorite FNAF character. I hope he makes an appearance in the movie. I don't think he will, though. He comes after, right?
I know what it is, Grant said, but why are you asking? Because, Morris said, over the last 5 years, Hammond has purchased enormous quantities of amber in America, Europe, and Asia, including many pieces of museum-quality jewelry. The Foundation has spent $17 million on amber. They now possess the largest privately held stock of this material in the world. I don't get it, Grant.
I'm not entirely sure where he falls in the lore. Well, it looks like he's in one of the more upbeat places that is still putting shit together. I don't know. I don't know. All right, we're in Grant's chapter, so I'm gonna copy and paste Grant. I have an idea. Add page. Because this will pay off, don't worry. Because we're in Grant's chapter, so we're in Grant's perspective.
Said. Neither does anybody else, Morris said. As far as we can tell, it doesn't make any sense at all. Amber is easily synthesized. It has no commercial or defense value. There's no reason to stockpile it. But Hammond has done just that over many years. Amber, Grant said, shaking his head. And what about his island in Costa Rica? Morris continued. 10 years ago, the Hammond Foundation leased an island from the government of Costa Rica, supposedly to...
What an incredible world that we can relate to just billionaires buying islands to do whatever the fuck they want on it. It's like Michael Crichton kind of had a feeling about what was going on with Epstein, which I do kind of feel like Trump is in the Epstein files because like the way he's acting is so shady.
Set up a biological preserve. I don't know anything about that, Grant said, frowning. I haven't been able to find out much, Morris said. The island is 100 miles off the west coast. It's very rugged, and it's in an area of ocean where the combinations of wind and current make it almost perpetually covered in fog. They used to call it Cloud Island, Isla Nublar. Apparently the Costa Rica...
I mean, I'd be befuddled if he wasn't in them. Yeah, no, 100%. Especially with the way he's been acting and everything that we've seen at this point and all of, like, the way that they just keep, like, lying. It's just like, wow. Okay. Like... say you're in it without saying you're in it challenge.
Ricans were amazed that anybody would want it. Morris searched in his briefcase. The reason I mention it, he said, is that, according to the records, you were paid a consultant's fee in connection with this island. I was? Grant said. Morris passed a sheet of paper to Grant. It was the Xerox of a check issued in March 19...
Hell, him and Don were basically married. Donald Trump the other day said that it was because Jeffrey Epstein poached his employees. Poaching your employees is basically when you go over to somebody's business and you take their employees over to your business. And when one of the reporters asked him if a specific employee was like Virginia Giuffre, he said yes. She worked in my spa, which she was one of Jeffrey's #1 allegers. Donald's husband before Elon? Yeah! You're not wrong. Oh, come on.
1984 from InGen Incorporated, Farallon Road, Palo Alto, California, made out to Alan Grant in the amount of $12,000. At the lower corner, the check was marked Consultant Services stroke Costa Rica stroke Juvenile Hyperspace. Oh, sure, Grant said. I remember that. It was weird as hell, but I remember it. And it didn't have anything to do with an island. Alan Grant had found the first clutch of dinosaur eggs in Montana in 1979, and many more in the next 2 years.
Oh, wait, it's the narrator
But
now.
he hadn't gotten around to publishing his findings until 1983. His paper, with its report of a herd of 10,000 duck-billed dinosaurs living along the shore of a vast inland sea, building communal nests of eggs in the mud, raising their infant dinosaurs in the herd, made Grant a celebrity overnight. The notion of maternal instincts in giant dinosaurs and the drawings of cute babies poking their snouts out of the eggs had appeal around the world. Grant was besieged with requests for interviews, lectures, books. Characteristically, he turned them all down, wanting only to continue his excavations. But it was during those frantic days of the mid-1980s that he was approached by the InGen Corporation with a request for consulting services. Had you heard of InGen before? Morris asked. No. How did they contact you?
Sorry, I'm like in space right now. In space thinking about how grateful we need to be as humans for that meteor hitting Earth and killing the dinosaurs, because if it wasn't for that, mammals would not be here right now, or at least to the state we are now. And I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing anymore.
Telephone call. There was a man named Gennaro or Giannino, something like that.
Ah!
Morris nodded.
Wait, we got a Gennaro mention. That means we need to add him to a page. Oh yeah, there it is. I was like, did I not get it? It just it's kind of just a thing about now. Yeah.
Donald Gennaro, he said. He's the legal counsel for InGen. Anyway, he wanted to know about eating habits of dinosaurs, and he offered me a fee to draw up a paper for him. Grant drank his beer, set the can on the floor. Gennaro was particularly interested in young dinosaurs, infants and juveniles, what they ate. I guess he thought I would know about that. Did you? Not really, no. I told him that. We had found lots of skeletal material, but we had very little dietary data. But Gennaro said he knew we hadn't published everything, and he wanted whatever we had. And he offered a very large fee, $50,000.
Oh, hold on, wait.
Morris took out a tape recorder and set it on the end table. You mind? No, go ahead. So, Gennaro telephoned you in 1984. What happened then? Well, Grant said, you see our operation here. 50,000 would support 2 full summers of digging. I told him I'd do what I could. So you agreed to prepare a paper for him? Yes. On the dietary habits of juvenile dinosaurs? Yes. You met Gennaro? No, just on the phone. Did Gennaro say why he wanted this information? Yes, Grant said. He was planning a museum for children, and he wanted to feature baby dinosaurs. He said he was hiring a number of academic consultants and named them. There were paleontologists like me, and a mathematician from Texas named Ian Malcolm, and a couple of ecologists.
Why can't I
A
find
systems
what I want?
analyst.
I just want like
Good group. Morris nodded, making notes. So you
I got a piece of cheesecake with ice cream today too. Ooh.
accepted the consultancy? Yes. I agreed to send him a summary of our work, what we knew about the habits of the duck-billed hadrosaurs we'd found. What kind of information did you send? Morris asked. Everything. Nesting behavior, territorial ranges, feeding behavior, social behavior, everything. And how did Gennaro respond? He kept calling and calling, sometimes in the middle of the night. Would the dinosaurs eat this? Would they eat that? Should the exhibit include this? I could never understand why he was so worked up. I mean, I think dinosaurs are important too, but not that important. They've been dead 65 million years. You'd think his calls could wait until morning. I see, Morris said. And the $50,000? Grant shook his head. I got tired of Gennaro and called the whole thing off. We settled up for $12,000. That must have been about the middle of '85. Morris made a note. And InGen, any other contact with him? Not since 1985. And when did the Hammond Foundation begin to fund your research? I'd have to look, Grant said, but it was around then, mid-'80s. And you know Hammond as just a rich dinosaur enthusiast? Yes. Morris made another note. Look, Grant said, if the EPA is so concerned about John Hammond and what he's doing, the dinosaur sites in the north, the amber purchases, the island in Costa Rica, why don't you just ask him about it? At the moment, we can't, Morris said. Why not? Grant said. Because we don't have any evidence of wrongdoing, Morris said. But personally, I think it's clear John Hammond is evading the law. I was first contacted, Morris explained, by the Office of Technology Transfer. The OTT monitors shipments of American technology which might have military significance. They called to say that InGen had two areas of possible illegal technology transfer. First, InGen shipped 3 Cray XMPs to Costa Rica. InGen characterized it as transfer within corporate divisions and said they weren't for resale, but OTT couldn't imagine why the hell somebody'd need that power in Costa Rica. 3 Crays, Grant said. Is that a kind of computer? Morris nodded. Very powerful supercomputers. To put it in perspective, 3 Crays represent more computing power than any other privately held company in America. And InGen sent the machines to Costa Rica. You have to wonder why. I give up. Why? Grant said. Nobody knows. And the hoods are even more worrisome, Morris continued. Hoods are automated gene sequencers, machines that work out the genetic code by themselves. They're so new that they haven't been put on the restricted lists yet. But any genetic engineering lab is likely to have one if it can afford the $500,000 price tag. He flipped through his notes. Well, it seems InGen shipped 24 hood sequencers to their island in Costa Rica. Again, they said it was a transfer within divisions and not an export, Morris said. There wasn't much that OTT could do. They're not officially concerned with use, but InGen was obviously setting up one of the most powerful genetic engineering facilities in the world in an obscure Central American country, a country with no regulations. That kind of thing has happened before. There had already been cases of American bioengineering companies moving to another country so they would not be hampered by regulations and rules. The most flagrant, Morris explained, was the Biosyn rabies case. In 1986, Genetic Biosyn Corporation of Cupertino tested a bioengineered rabies vaccine on a farm in Chile. They didn't inform the government of Chile or the farm workers involved. They simply released the vaccine. The vaccine consisted of live rabies virus, genetically modified to be non-virulent. But the virulence hadn't been tested. Biosyn didn't know whether the virus could still cause rabies or not. Even worse, the virus had been modified. Ordinarily, you couldn't contract rabies unless you were bitten by an animal, but Biosyn modified the rabies virus to cross the pulmonary alveoli. You could get an infection just inhaling it. Biosyn staffers brought this live rabies virus down to Chile in a carry-on bag on a commercial airline flight. Morris often wondered what would have happened if the capsule had broken open during the flight. Everybody on the plane might have been infected with rabies. It was outrageous, it was irresponsible, it was criminally negligent, but no action was taken against Biosyn. The Chilean farmers who unwittingly risked their lives were ignorant peasants. The government of Chile had an economic crisis to worry about, and the American authorities had no jurisdiction. So Louis Dodgson, the geneticist responsible for the test, was still working at Biosyn. Biosyn was still as reckless as ever. And other American companies were hurrying to set up facilities in foreign countries that lacked sophistication about genetic research. Countries that perceived genetic engineering to be like any other high-tech development, and thus welcomed it to their lands, unaware of the dangers posed. So that's why we began our investigation of InGen, Morris said, about 3 weeks ago. And what have you actually found? Grant said. Not much, Morris admitted. When I go back to San Francisco, we'll probably have to close the investigation. And I think I'm about finished here. He started packing up his briefcase. By the way, what does juvenile hyperspace mean? That's just a fancy label for my report, Grant said. Hyperspace is a term for multidimensional space, like three-dimensional tic-tac-toe. If you were to take all the behaviors of an animal, its eating and movement and sleeping, you could plot the animal within the multidimensional space. Some paleontologists refer to the behavior of an animal as occurring in an ecological hyperspace. Juvenile hyperspace would just refer to the behavior of juvenile dinosaurs, if you wanted to be as pretentious as possible. At the far end of the trailer, the phone rang. Ellie answered it. She said, He's in a meeting right now. Can he call you back? Morris snapped his briefcase shut and stood. Thanks for your help and the beer, he said. No problem, Grant said. Grant walked with Morris down the trailer to the door at the far end. Morris said, Did Hammond ever ask for any physical materials from your site, bones or eggs or anything like that? No, Grant said. Dr. Sattler mentioned you do some genetic work here. Well, not exactly, Grant said. When we remove fossils that are broken, or for some other reason not suitable for museum preservation, we send the bones out to a lab that grinds them up and tries to extract proteins for us. The proteins are then identified, and the report is sent back to us. Which lab is that? Morris asked. Medical Biologic Services in Salt Lake. How'd you choose them? Competitive bids. The lab has nothing to do with InGen? Morris asked. Not that I know, Grant said.
Ooh, are they owned by InGen or are they owned by Biosyn?
They came to the door of the trailer. Grant opened it and felt the rush of hot air from outside. Morris paused to put on his sunglasses. One last thing, Morris said. Suppose InGen wasn't really making a museum exhibit. Is there anything else they could have done with the information in the report you gave them? Grant laughed. Sure, they could feed a baby hadrosaur. Morris laughed too. Baby hadrosaur. That'd be something to see. How big were they? About so, Grant said, holding his hands 6 inches apart. Squirrel size. And how long before they become full-grown? 3 years, Grant said, give or take. Morris held out his hand. Well, thanks again for your help. Take it easy driving back, Grant said. He watched for a moment as Morris walked back toward his car and then closed the trailer door. Grant said, What did you think? Ellie shrugged. Naive. You like the part where John Hammond is the evil arch-villain? Grant laughed. John Hammond's about as sinister as Walt Disney. By the way, who called? Oh, Ellie said, it was a woman named Alice Levin. She works at Columbia Medical Center. You know her? Grant shook his head. No. Well, it was something about identifying some remains. She wants you to call her back right away. Skeleton. Ellie Sattler brushed a strand of blonde hair back from her face and turned her attention to the acid baths.
Wait. We got Ellie now. Ah! I just noticed the lips on Alan moving. Yeah, I thought it would be funny. I was trying to find one for the narrator too, but that wasn't happening. Grant's works because of his beard. I couldn't find just any, like, lips.
She had 6 in a row, at molar strengths from 5 to 30%. She had to keep an eye on the stronger solutions because they would eat through the limestone and begin to erode the bones. And infant dinosaur bones were so fragile. She marveled that they had been preserved at all after 80 million years. She listened idly as Grant said,
Ellie with a beard.
Miss Levin, this is Alan Grant. And what's this about a... You have what? A what?
What?
He began to laugh. Oh, I doubt that very much, Miss Levin. No, I really don't have time, I'm sorry. Well, I'll take a look at it, but I can pretty much guarantee it's a basilisk lizard, but yes, you can do that. All right, send it now. Grant hung up and shook his head. These people. Ellie said, What's it about? Some lizard she's trying to identify, Grant said. She's going to fax me an X-ray. He walked over to the fax and waited as the transmission came through. Incidentally, I've got a new find for you, a good one. Yes? Grant nodded. Found it just before the kid showed up. On South Hill, Horizon 4. Infant velociraptor, jaw and complete dentition. so there's no question about identity, and the site looks undisturbed. We might even get a full skeleton. That's fantastic, Ellie said. How young? Young, Grant said. 2, maybe 4 months at most. And it's definitely a velociraptor? Definitely, Grant said. Maybe our luck has finally turned.
Ellie with a beard. How? What?
For the last 2 years at
every
Snakewater, the
time.
team had excavated only duck-billed hadrosaurs. They already had evidence for vast herds of these grazing dinosaurs roaming the Cretaceous plains in groups of 10 or 20,000, as buffalo would later roam, but increasingly the question that faced them was, where were the predators? They expected predators to be rare, of course. Studies of predator-stroke-prey populations in the game parks of Africa and India suggested that, roughly speaking, there was 1 predatory carnivore for every 400 herbivores. That meant a herd of 10,000 duckbills would support only 25 tyrannosaurs. So it was unlikely that they would find the remains of a large predator. But where were the smaller predators? Snakewater had dozens of nesting sites. In some places, the ground was literally covered with fragments of dinosaur eggshells, and many small dinosaurs ate eggs. Animals like Dromaeosaurus, Oviraptor, Velociraptor, and Silurus, predators 3 to 6 feet tall, must have been found here in abundance. But they had discovered none so far. Perhaps this Velociraptor skeleton did mean their luck had changed, and an infant. Ellie knew that one of Grant's dreams was to study infant-rearing behavior in carnivorous dinosaurs, as he had already studied the behavior of herbivores. Perhaps this was the first step toward that dream. You must be pretty excited, Ellie said. Grant didn't answer. I said you must be excited, Ellie repeated. My God, Grant said. He was staring at the facts. Ellie looked over Grant's shoulder at the X-ray and breathed out slowly. You think it's an Amazicus? Yes, Grant said. Or a Triassicus. The skeleton is so light. But it's no lizard, she said. No, Grant said, this is not a lizard. No 3-toed lizard has walked on this planet for 200 million years. Ellie's first thought was that she was looking at a hoax, an ingenious, skillful hoax, but a hoax nonetheless. Every biologist knew that the threat of a hoax was omnipresent. The most famous hoax, the Piltdown Man, had gone undetected for 40 years, and its perpetrator was still unknown. More recently, the distinguished astronomer Fred Hoyle had claimed that a fossil-winged dinosaur, Archaeopteryx, on display in the British Museum was a fraud. It was later shown to be genuine. The essence of a successful hoax was that it presented scientists with what they expected to see. And to Ellie's eye, the X-ray image of the lizard was exactly correct. The 3-toed foot was well-balanced, with a medial claw smallest. The bony remnants of the 4th and 5th toes were located up near the metatarsal joint. The tibia was strong and considerably longer than the femur. At the hip, the acetabulum was complete. The tail showed 45 vertebrae. It was a young Procompsognathus. Could this X-ray be faked? I don't know, Grant said, but it's almost impossible to fake an X-ray. And Procompsognathus is an obscure animal. Even people familiar with dinosaurs have never heard of it. Ellie read the note. Specimen acquired on the beach of Cabo Blanco, July 16th. Apparently a howler monkey was eating the animal, and this was all that was recovered. Oh, and it says the lizard attacked a little girl. I doubt that, Grant said, but perhaps Procompsognathus was so small and light we assume it must be a scavenger, only feeding off dead creatures. And you can tell the size, he measured quickly. It's about 20 centimeters to the hips, which means the full animal would be about a foot tall, about as big as a chicken. Even a child would look pretty fearsome to it. It might bite an infant, but not a child. Ellie frowned at the X-ray image. You think this could really be a legitimate rediscovery, she said? Like the coelacanth? Maybe, Grant said. The coelacanth was a 5-foot-long fish thought to have died out 65 million years ago until a specimen was pulled from the ocean in 1938. But there were other examples. The Australian mountain pygmy possum.
I keep clicking on the narrator to pause it. Hi, Hobby. I'm playing Minecraft. Hi, just noticed the movie Lives on Alan. Allie with a beard. Oh, what? Alan said three-toed lizard. Oh, hell yeah, beard. Yeah, I'm trying to get it to work. What I need to be able to do is just like bam, bam, bam. Like bam, bam, bam. Bam, 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 bam. Maybe if I put Ellie here. Okay, I think I can fly through this. Are we on repeat? We are on repeat, girl. Grid view? Oh, no. No, we're not doing that. No, we're also not doing that.
Was known only from fossils until a live one was found in a garbage can in Melbourne. And a 10,000-year-old fossil fruit bat from New Guinea was described by a zoologist who not long afterward received a living specimen in the mail. But could it be real? She persisted. What about the age? Grant nodded. The age is a problem. Most rediscovered animals were rather recent additions to the fossil record, 10 or 20,000 years old. Some were a few million years old. In the case of the coelacanth, 65 million years old. But the specimen they were looking at was much, much older than that. Dinosaurs had died out in the Cretaceous period 65 million years ago. They had flourished as the dominant life form on the planet in the Jurassic 190 million years ago, and they had first appeared in the Triassic, roughly 220 million years ago. It was during the early Triassic period that Procompsognathus had lived, a time so distant that our planet didn't even look the same. All the continents were joined together in a single
there's a boomer
landmass
around here.
called
Shut up. This is so funny. This is the best. I only wish I could find more. Hold on, is there like more like this? Is that like human mouth? Could I just get one going like this? That's all I'm looking for. These ones are great. But wait, is the background clear? Oh, no. This is horrifying. Oh yes, that's more Mr. Hippo. Oh, I love this so much.
Pangea, which extended from the North to the South Pole, a vast continent of ferns and forests with a few large deserts. The Atlantic Ocean was a narrow lake between what would become Africa and Florida. The air was denser, the land was warmer, there were hundreds of active volcanoes, and it was in this environment that Procompsognathus lived. "Well," Ellie said, "we know animals have survived. Crocodiles are basically Triassic animals living in the present. Sharks are Triassic, so we know it has happened before." Grant nodded. "And the thing is," he said, "how else do we explain it? It's either a fake, which I doubt, or else it's a rediscovery. What else could it be?" The phone rang. "Alice Levin again," Grant said. "Let's see if she'll send us the actual specimen." He answered it and looked at Ellie, surprised. "Yes, I'll hold for Mr. Hammond." "Yes, of course." "Hammond? What does he want?" Ellie said. Grant shook his head and then said into the phone, "Yes, Mr. Hammond, yes, it's good to hear your voice, too." "Yes." He looked at Ellie. "Oh, you did? Oh, yes? Is that right?" He cupped his hand over the mouthpiece and said, "Still eccentric as ever. You've got to hear this." Grant pushed the speaker button, and Ellie heard a raspy old man's voice speaking rapidly. "Hell of an annoyance from some EPA fellow. Seems to have gone off half-cocked, all on his own, running around the country talking to people, stirring up things. I don't suppose anybody's come to see you way out there." "As a matter of fact," Grant said, "somebody did come to see me."
Lizard.
Hammond snorted. "I was afraid of that smart-ass kid named Morris." "Yes, his name was Morris," Grant said. "He's going to see all our consultants," Hammond said. "He went to see Ian Malcolm the other day. You know, the..."
This might be my favorite narrator for Crichton's book. This guy's great. He's one of my favorites. I love the way he does Lex.
"Mathematician in Texas. That's the first I knew of it. We're having one hell of a time getting a handle on this thing. It's typical of the way government operates. There isn't any complaint, there isn't any charge, just harassment from some kid who's unsupervised and is running around at the taxpayer's expense. Did he bother you? Disrupt your work?" "No,
Yeah,
he
Mr. Hippo
didn't
was
bother me."
badass.
"Well, that's too bad in a way," Hammond said, "because I'd try and get an injunction to stop him if he had. As it is, I had our lawyers call over at EPA to find out what the hell their problem is. The head of the office claims he didn't know there was any investigation. You figure that one out. Damn bureaucracy is all it is. Hell, I think this kid's trying to get down to Costa Rica, poke around, get..."
Oh my god, Dorothy! Look at that fish! Holy shit! That's awesome! You are officially beating Hobby. Let's go! Hold on, I think I have a noise for this.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
No, maybe not that. Do we have all the Halloween stuff yet? We have to be close. We have to be close. Ooh. Hobby is at 2,064. And you're at 3,030. Flipping that. Hi, I'm Doug Dimmadome. Ooh. How's it go? Hi, I'm Doug Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome. Ooh.
"Get onto our island. You know we have an island down there." "No," Grant said, looking at Ellie. "I didn't know." "Oh, yes, we bought it and started our operation, 4 or 5 years ago now. I forget exactly. Called Isla Nublar.
These streams are wonderful. I'm so glad I'm able to perform for you guys because I've been like, wow, I've been a really shitty streamer lately. You gotta post it to the Discord. Blink. You clip that shit fast as fuck, boy. Fast as fuck. I'm Doug Dimmadome.
Big Island, 100 miles offshore. Going to be a biological preserve. Wonderful
it's
place.
It's a lot easier on the desktop. I have 3 monitors. Fear me. I'm so sorry for your retina.
Tropical jungle. You know, you ought to see it, Dr. Grant. Sounds interesting, Grant said. But actually, it's almost finished now, you know, Hammond said. I've sent you some material about it. Did you get my material? No, but we're pretty far from... Maybe it'll come today. Look it over. The island's just beautiful. It's got everything. We've been in construction now 30 months. You can imagine. Big park. Opens in September next year.
I also
you really ought to go see it.
Girly Pops, I am doing this on 1 monitor and a hope and a prayer, okay? My Ethernet cable has to go like 200 feet, okay? This stream goes down every 3 to 5 business hours. Subscribe to fix my predicament.
It sounds wonderful, but as a matter of fact, Hammond said, I'm going to insist you see it, Dr. Grant. I know you'd find it right up your alley. You'd find it fascinating.
Do we have all the Halloween stuff yet? We have to be close. We have to be close. Ooh. Hobby is at 2,064. Nice. Nice. 10 out of 10. I'll turn that into a TikTok later. Bet.
I'm in the middle of, Grant said. Say, I'll tell you what, Hammond said, as if the idea had just occurred to him. I'm having some of the people who consulted for us go down there this weekend, spend a few days and look it over. At our expense, of course. It'd be terrific if you'd give us your opinion. I couldn't possibly, Grant said. Oh, just for a weekend, Hammond said with the irritating, cheery persistence of an old man. That's all I'm talking about, Dr. Grant. I wouldn't want to interrupt your work. I know how important that work is. Believe me, I know that. Never interrupt your work. But you could hop on down there this weekend and be back on Monday. No, I couldn't, Grant said. I've just found a new skeleton, and yes, fine, but I still think you should come, Hammond said, not really listening.
No means no.
And we've just received some evidence for a very puzzling and remarkable find, which seems to be a living procompsognathed. What? Hammond said, slowing down. I didn't quite get that. You said a living procompsognathed? That's right, Grant said. It's a biological specimen, a partial fragment of an animal collected from Central America, a living animal.
Oh, the compies, yeah. We've gone through the whole plot of the compies.
You don't say, Hammond said. A living animal. How extraordinary. Yes, Grant said, we think so too. So, you see, this isn't the time for me to be leaving Central America, did you say? Yes. Where in Central America is it from, do you know? A beach called Cabo Blanco. I don't know exactly where. I see. Hammond cleared his throat. And when did this specimen arrive in your hand? Just today. Today. I see. Today. I see. Yes. Hammond cleared his throat again. Grant looked at Ellie and mouthed, "What's going on?" Ellie shook her head. "Sounds upset." Grant mouthed, "See if Morris is still here." She went to the window and looked out, but Morris's car was gone. She turned back. On the speaker, Hammond coughed. Dr. Grant, have you told anybody about it yet?" "No." "Good. That's good. Well, yes. I'll tell you frankly, Dr. Grant."
This is so... LOL, this whole... Wait, do you mean like the pitch, like the book? Like the idea of the book? It's so ace-coded. It gets even worse. Oh my god, I have to show you guys the comment section. I've been dying reading it, okay? Creighton's intro regarding the commercialization of biotech R&Ds hits especially hard post 2020. I suspect he would have been horrified to learn about gain of function results. Yeah. I knew I heard the narrator's voice before. It's the same guy who voiced J. Jonah Jameson in the Amazing Spider-Man radio drama I had back on cassette in the 90s.
Christ, there's a boomer around here.
Sort by top. Every time I'm drawing something dinosaur related, I listen to this masterpiece. I forget this book books take time to write, so yeah, it came out in the 90s, but it is written in the 80s. I think it was, I don't remember when it was published, but I know it's set in 1993. Hammond in the movies, we spared no expense. Hammond in the books, we cut every corner. Something about the book and the movie are so alike and yet so different. It makes me love them both. The movie is magical, whimsical, colorful characters, suspense, and action, all in one of the greatest action-packed, you said action twice, packed endings in cinema. But the book is grim, depressing even, very graphic, and hard R, and a lot more people die. There's very magical moments, and it's straight to everything is awful from the get-go. LOL, lots of subplots and kind of lackluster ending. But man, the middle of the book, from the T-Rex attack to the blowing up the raptors, is just so. I told you, November 1990. So he wrote it for the future. He did a future prediction. Thank you, my young Crichton. You died too young, but left us so much. I love the internet. If I can't read a book, then I can simply listen to it on the YouTube channel. Yeah, that's fair. I didn't realize how slow burn of a horror novel it was in the beginning, but wow, it definitely makes up for it once shit starts hitting the fan. This book is really a diamond among masterpieces. It amazes me so much. Is already completely different from the story of the movie adaptation, much more clarity. There was one about like how like it's crazy about like pharmaceuticals in 2020 and like more like that vibe, but that was on mobile, so it's probably geared more towards me on mobile versus here.
I'm having a little problem about this island. This EPA thing is coming at just the wrong time. How's that? Grant said. Well, we've had our problems and some delays. Let's just say that I'm under a little pressure here, and I'd like you to look at this island for me. Give me your opinion. I'll be paying you the usual weekend consultant rate of $20,000 a day. That'd be $60,000 for 3 days. And if you can spare Dr. Sattler, she'll go at the same rate. We need a botanist. What do you say? Ellie looked at Grant as he said, Well, Mr. Hammond, that much money would fully finance our expeditions for the next 2 summers. Good, good, Hammond said blandly. He seemed distracted now, his thoughts elsewhere. I want this to be easy. Now, I'm sending the corporate jet to pick you up at that private airfield east of Choto. You know the one I mean? It's only about 2 hours' drive from where you are. You be there at 5 p.m. tomorrow, and I'll be waiting for you. Take you right down. Can you and Dr. Sattler make that plane? I guess we can. Good. Pack lightly. You don't need passports. I'm looking forward to it. See you tomorrow, Hammond said, and he hung up. Cowan, Swain, and Ross. Midday sun streamed into the San Francisco law offices of Cowan, Swain, and Ross, giving the room a cheerfulness that Donald Gennaro did not feel. He listened on the phone and looked at his boss, Daniel Ross, cold as an undertaker in his dark pinstripe suit. I understand, John, Gennaro said. And Grant?
Yeah, it's like cyberpunk adjacent, and oh, look, cyberpunk corporate dystopia, yeah.
Agreed to come? Good, good. Yes, that sounds fine to me. My congratulations, John. He hung up the phone and turned to Ross. We can't trust Hammond anymore. He's under too much pressure. The EPA's investigating him, is behind schedule on his Costa Rican resort, and the investors are getting nervous. There have been too many rumors of problems down there. Too many workmen have died. And now this business about a living procomsit whatever on the mainland. What does that mean? Ross said. Maybe nothing, Gennaro said. But Hamachi is one of our principal investors. I got a report last week from Hamachi's representative in San Jose, the capital of Costa Rica. According to the report, some new kind of lizard is biting children on the coast. Ross blinked. New lizard? Yes, Gennaro said. We can't screw around with this. We've got to inspect that island right away. I've asked Hammond to arrange independent site inspections every week for the next 3 weeks. And what does Hammond say? He insists nothing is wrong on the island, claims he has all these security precautions. But you don't believe him, Ross said. No, Gennaro said, I don't. Donald Gennaro had come to Cowan Swain from a background in investment banking. Cowan Swain's high-tech clients frequently needed capitalization, and Gennaro helped them find the money. One of his first assignments back in 1982 had been to accompany John Hammond while the old man, then nearly 70, put together the funding to start the InGen Corporation. They eventually raised almost $1 billion, and Gennaro remembered it as a wild ride. Hammond's a dreamer, Gennaro said. A potentially dangerous dreamer, Ross said. We should never have gotten involved. What is our financial position? The firm, Gennaro said, owns 5%. General or limited? General. Ross shook his head. We should never have done that. It seemed wise at the time, Gennaro said. Hell, it was 8 years ago. We took it in lieu of some fees. And if you remember, Hammond's plan was extremely speculative. He was really pushing the envelope. Nobody really thought he could pull it off. But apparently he has, Ross said. In any case, I agree that an inspection is overdue. What about your site experts? I'm starting with experts Hammond already hired as consultants early in the project. Gennaro tossed a list onto Ross's desk. First group is a paleontologist, a paleobotanist, and a mathematician. They go down this weekend. I'll go with them. Will they
First
tell you the
group?
truth?
Who's the second
Ross
group?
said. I think so.
Wait, who was going to be in the second group? Oh my god, I didn't even realize that. There was supposed to be more than one group? Ah, god damn it. Why is it so hard for me? This is very important. More folks were supposed to be there because you're Stony Bologna. Bolognese. Oh my god, this is so good. I'm not even that high. I just think this is funny. I'm sorry. Sometimes listening to it. LOL, that's how you spell Ballony.
Christ, there's a boomer around here.
I know that. I'm dying here packing a bowl. Where were we? Gennaro?
None of them had much to do with the island, and one of them, the mathematician Ian Malcolm, was openly hostile to the project from the
Arlene,
start.
Texas.
Insisted it would never work, could never work. And who else? Just a technical person, a computer system analyst. Review the park's computers and fix some bugs. He should be there by Friday morning. Fine, Ross said. You were making the arrangements? Hammond asked to place the calls himself. I think he wants to pretend that he's not in trouble, that it's just a social invitation, showing off his island. All right, Ross said, but just make sure it happens. Stay on top of it. I want this Costa Rican situation resolved within a week. Ross got up and walked out of the room. Gennaro dialed, heard the whining hiss of a radio phone. Then he heard a voice say, "Grant here." "Hi, Dr. Grant, this is Donald Gennaro. I'm the general counsel for InGen. We talked a few years back. I don't know if you remember." "I remember," Grant said. "Well," Gennaro said, "I just got off the phone with John Hammond, who tells me the good news that you're coming down to our island in Costa Rica." "Yes," Grant said, "I guess we're going down there tomorrow." "Well, I just want to extend my thanks to you for doing this on short notice. Everybody at InGen appreciates it. We've asked Ian Malcolm, who, like you, was one of the early consultants, to come down as well. He's the mathematician at UT in Austin." "John Hammond mentioned that," Grant said. "Well, good," Gennaro said. "And I'll be coming too, as a matter of fact. By the way, this specimen you have found of a what is it? Procompsognathus, Grant said. "Yes, do you have the specimen with you, Dr. Grant, the actual specimen?" "No," Grant said. "I've only seen an X-ray. The specimen is in New York. A woman from Columbia University called me." "Well, I wonder if you could give me the details on that," Gennaro said. "Then I can run down that specimen for Mr. Hammond, who's very excited about it. I'm sure you want to see the actual specimen, too. Perhaps I can even get it delivered to the island while you're all down there," Gennaro said. Grant
I think I'm still
gave him
static,
the information.
yep.
"Well, that's fine, Dr. Grant," Gennaro said. "My regards to Dr. Sattler. I look forward to meeting you and him tomorrow." And Gennaro hung up. Plans. "This just came," Ellie said the next day, walking to the back of the trailer with a thick manila envelope. "One of the kids brought it back from town. It's from Hammond." Grant noticed the blue and white InGen logo as he tore open the envelope. Inside there was no cover letter, just a bound stack of paper. Pulling it out, he discovered it was blueprints. They were reduced, forming a thick book. The cover was marked Isla Nublar, Resort Guest Facilities, Full Set Safari Lodge. "What the hell is this?" he said. As he flipped open the book, a sheet of paper fell out. "Dear Alan and Ellie, as you can imagine, we don't have much in the way of formal promotional materials yet,
You calling me a
but
nerd?
this should give you some
Wait,
idea."
I just saw chat. Are you calling me a nerd because I am looking for anime hearts and I can't find what I want? Is that why I'm getting shit on? Is that what's happening? I called Alan a nerd? Oh.
Alan. Alan.
My
Idea
bad.
of the Isla
Sorry,
Nublar
Blue.
project. I think it's very exciting. Looking forward to discussing this with you. Hope you can join us. Regards, John. "I don't get it," Grant said. He flipped through the sheets. "These are architectural plans." He turned to the top sheet. Visitor Center Stroke Lodge, Isla Nublar Resort. Client, InGen Incorporated, Palo Alto, California. Architects, Dunning, Murphy & Associates, New York. Richard Murphy, design partner. Theodore Chen, senior designer. Sheldon James, administrative partner. Engineers, Harlow, Whitney & Fields, Boston, structural. A.T. Mishikawa, Osaka, mechanical. Landscaping, Shepperton Rogers, London. A. Ashikiga, H. Ayasu Kanazawa.
These
Electrical, N.V. Kobayashi.
these have just been consistently more unhinged the farther we go down. Like, yeah, okay, maybe we started off a little unhinged. Okay, Ellie is talking, right?
Tokyo, A.R. Makasawa, Senior Consultant. Computer C/C, Integrated Computer Systems Incorporated, Cambridge, Massachusetts, Dennis Nedry, Project Supervisor. Grant turned to the plans themselves. They were stamped Industrial Secrets, Do Not Copy, and Confidential Work Product Not for Distribution. Each sheet was numbered, and at the top, these plans represent the confidential creations of InGen Incorporated. You must have signed document 112-4A or you risk prosecution.
No.
Looks pretty paranoid to me, he said. Maybe there's a reason, Ellie said. The next page was a topographical map. It showed Isla Nublar as an inverted teardrop, bulging at the north, tapering at the south. The island was 8 miles long, and the map divided it into several large sections. The northern section was marked Visitor Area, and it contained structures marked Visitor Arrivals, Visitor Center / Administration, Power / Desalinization / Support, Hammond Res, and Safari Lodge. Grant could see the outline of a swimming pool, the rectangles of tennis courts, and the round squiggles that represented planting and shrubbery. Looks like a resort, all right, Ellie said. There followed detailed sheets for the Safari Lodge itself. In the elevation sketches, the lodge looked dramatic, a long, low building with a series of pyramid shapes on the roof, but there was little about the other buildings in the visitor area, and the rest of the island was even more mysterious. As far as Grant could tell, it was mostly open space. A network of roads, tunnels, and outlying buildings, and a long, thin lake that appeared to be man-made with concrete dams and barriers. But for the most part, the island was divided into big, curving areas with very little development at all. Each area was marked by codes.
Is this a cry for help?
Stroke P, stroke proc, stroke V, stroke 2A. Stroke D, stroke trice, stroke L, stroke 5, parenthesis 4A plus 1, end parenthesis, and so on. Is there an explanation for the codes? She said. Grant flipped the pages rapidly, but he couldn't find one. Maybe they took it out, she said. I'm telling you, Grant said, paranoid. He looked at the big, curving divisions separated from one another by the network of roads. There were only 6 divisions on the whole island, and each division was separated from the road by a concrete moat. Outside each moat was a fence with a little lightning sign alongside it. That mystified them until they were finally able to figure out it meant the fences were electrified. That's odd, she said. Electrified fences at a resort? Miles of them, Grant said. Electrified fences and moats together. And usually with a road alongside them as well. Just like a zoo, Ellie said. They went back to the topographical map and looked closely at the contour lines.
This is the most 90s fucking cool thing I've ever. 10 of them stacked onto each other. I couldn't redo that if I tried. Oh my god. I can't. Oh my god. I can't even talk. Oh my god, I'm gonna die. Oh. Losing oxygen fast. You're not kidding. Guess I should dial 911 and wait. No, just let me go. If this is how I go out, yes, please. Oh my god. I don't know why this is so funny. It just feels so like Windows like 2005 coded. Dennis needs a Barbie Jeep. What am I looking for? Glitter words. No, wait. I need animated. I need to be able to make them spin. Okay. I was gonna try to have like a Barbasol can spinning around him, but Barbie Jeep. No. I wanted like glitter letters to spin around like next to him. Hold on. Can I make you spin? Oh, I can only increase the speed? Okay, whatever. So wait, did it animate it? Are we animated? Oh, like the whole animation is just like, no. Ugh, I hate Canva. All right, we're leaving it as this. It's fine as is. Jesus Christ. Where are we in the story? I completely lost it.
The roads had been placed oddly. The main road ran north-south, right through the central hills of the island, including one section of road that seemed to be literally cut into the side of a cliff above a river. It began to look as if there had been a deliberate effort to leave these open areas as big enclosures, separated from the roads by moats and electric fences. And the roads were raised up above ground level so you could see over the fences. You know, Ellie said, some of these dimensions are enormous. Look at this. This concrete moat is 30 feet wide. That's like a military fortification. So are these buildings, Grant said. He had noticed that each open division had a few buildings, usually located in out-of-the-way corners, but the buildings were all concrete, with thick walls. In side-view elevations, they looked like concrete bunkers. with small windows, like the Nazi pillboxes from old war movies. At that moment, they heard a muffled explosion, and Grant put the papers aside. "Back to work," he said. "Fire!" There was a slight vibration, and then yellow contour lines traced across the computer screen. This time the resolution was perfect, and Alan Grant had a glimpse of the skeleton, beautifully defined, the long neck arched back. It was unquestionably an infant velociraptor, and it looked in perfect... The screen went blank. "I hate computers," Grant said, squinting in the sun. "What happened now?" "Lost the integrator input," one of the kids said. "Just a minute." The kid bent to look at the tangle of wires going into the back of the battery-powered portable computer. They had set the computer up on a beer carton on top of Hill 4, not far from the device they called Thumper. Grant sat down on the side of the hill and looked at his watch. He said to Ellie, "We're going to have to do this the old-fashioned way." One of the kids overheard. "Ah, Alan." "Look," Grant said, "I've got a plane to catch, and I want the fossil protected before I go." Once you began to expose a fossil, you had to continue, or risk losing it. Visitors imagined the landscape of the Badlands to be...
This is the only appearance of Thumper, sadly. We will never see them again. They die off screen.
Unchanging, but in fact, it was continuously eroding, literally right before your eyes. All day long, you could hear the clatter of pebbles rolling down the crumbling hillside, and there was always a risk of a rainstorm. Even a brief shower would wash away a delicate fossil. Thus, Grant's partially exposed skeleton was at risk, and it had to be protected until he returned. Fossil protection ordinarily consisted of a tarp over the site and a trench around the perimeter to control water runoff. The question was how large a trench the velociraptor fossil required. To decide that, they were using computer-assisted sonic tomography, or CAST, C-A-S-T. This was a new procedure in which Thumper fired a soft lead slug into the ground, setting up shock waves that were read by the computer and assembled into a kind of X-ray image of the hillside. They had been using it all summer with varying results. Thumper was 20 feet away now, a big silver box on wheels with an umbrella on top. It looked like an ice cream vendor's pushcart, parked incongruously on the Badlands. Thumper had 2 youthful attendants loading the next soft lead pellet. So far, the CAST program merely located the extent of finds, helping Grant's team to dig more efficiently, but the kids claimed that within a few years, it would be possible to generate an image so detailed that excavation would be redundant.
Why? Why wouldn't you want to excavate it? That seems silly.
Get a perfect image of the bones in 3 dimensions, and it promised a whole new era of archaeology without excavation. But none of that had happened yet, and the equipment that worked flawlessly in the university laboratory proved pitifully delicate and fickle in the field.
Anything to get out of working.
"Much longer," Grant said. "We got it now, Alan. It's not bad." Grant went to look at the computer screen. He saw the complete skeleton traced in bright yellow. It was indeed a young specimen. The outstanding characteristic of Velociraptor,
there's a
the
boomer around
single-toed
here.
claw, which in a full-grown animal was a curved 6-inch-long weapon capable of ripping open its prey, was in this infant no larger than the thorn on a rosebush. It was hardly visible at all on the screen. And Velociraptor was a lightly built dinosaur in any case, an animal as fine-boned as a bird, and presumably as intelligent. Here, the skeleton appeared in perfect order, except that the head...
Maybe crows and ravens are just descendants of velociraptors. That'd be cool.
Head and neck were bent back toward the posterior. Such neck flexion was so common in fossils that some scientists had formulated a theory to explain it, suggesting that the dinosaurs had become extinct because they had been poisoned by the evolving alkaloids in plants. The twisted neck was thought to signify the death agony of the dinosaurs. Grant had finally put that one to rest by demonstrating that many species of birds and reptiles underwent a post-mortem contraction of posterior neck ligaments, which bent the head backward in a characteristic way. It had nothing to do with the cause of death. It had to do with the way a carcass dried in the sun. Grant saw that this particular skeleton had also been twisted laterally, so that the right leg and foot were raised up above the backbone. "It looks kind of distorted," one of the kids said, "but I don't think it's the computer." "No," Grant said, "it's just time. Lots and lots of time." Grant knew that people could not imagine geological time. Human life was lived on another scale of time entirely. An apple turned brown in a few minutes. Silverware turned black in a few days. A compost heap decayed in a season. A child grew up in a decade. None of these everyday human experiences prepared people to be able to imagine the meaning of 80 million years, the length of time that had passed since this little animal had died. In the classroom, Grant had tried different comparisons. If you imagined the human lifespan of 60 years was compressed to a day, then 80 million years would still be 3,652 years, older than the pyramids. The velociraptor had been dead a long time. "Doesn't look very fearsome," one of the kids said. "He wasn't," Grant said, "at least not until he grew up." Probably this baby had scavenged, feeding off carcasses slain by the adults after the big animals had gorged themselves, and lay basking in the sun. Carnivores could eat as much as 25% of their body weight in a single meal, and it made them sleepy afterward. The babies would chitter and scramble over the indulgent, somnolent bodies of the adults and nip little bites from the dead animal. The babies were probably cute little animals. But an adult velociraptor was another matter entirely. Pound for pound, a velociraptor was the most rapacious dinosaur that ever lived.
What's rapacious
Although
mean?
relatively small, about 200 pounds, the size of a leopard, velociraptors were quick, intelligent, and vicious, able to attack with sharp jaws, powerful clawed forearms, and the devastating single claw on the foot. Velociraptors hunted in packs, and Grant thought it must have been a sight to see a dozen of these animals racing at full speed, leaping onto the back of a much larger dinosaur, tearing at the neck and slashing at the ribs and belly.
Aggressively
"We're running out of time," Ellie
greedy
said,
or
bringing him
grasping.
back.
Okay, thank you.
Grant gave instructions for the trench. From the computer image, they knew the skeleton lay in a relatively confined area. A ditch around a 2-meter square would be sufficient. Meanwhile, Ellie lashed down the tarp that covered the side of the hill. Grant helped her pound in the final stakes. "How did the baby die?" one of the kids asked. "I doubt we'll know," Grant replied. "Infant mortality in the wild is high. In African parks, it runs 70% among some carnivores. It could have been anything. Disease, separation from the group."
Speaking of like African wild, did you guys hear about the CEO that got trampled to death at his own like game resort? He had like a game reserve for like hunting and stuff like that in Africa, and apparently some of the elephants were like charging at like one of the lodges, and they trampled him to death. They gored him and then they trampled him to death. I forget what his name was, but I didn't believe the TikTok when I saw it, so I did some more research, and I did indeed find stuff not just on like news websites, but also like from the place's own like business page and stuff like that. I was like, holy crap. First it's the orcas, then it's the elephants. Come on, guys. They're rising up before we are. What the fuck? No.
Anything. Or even attacked by an adult.
I hit the wrong button.
We know these animals hunted in packs, but we don't know anything about their social behavior in a group. The students nodded. They had all studied animal behavior, and they knew, for example, that when a new male took over a lion pride, the
orcas always never cared about capitalism. That's true. They've always been known to go after boats that are like aggressive. I think they're pretty based.
The first thing he did was kill all the cubs. The reason was apparently genetic. The male had evolved to disseminate his genes as widely as possible, and by killing the cubs, he brought all the females into heat so that he could impregnate them. It also prevented the females from wasting their time nurturing the offspring of another male. Perhaps the velociraptor hunting pack was also ruled by a dominant male. They knew so little about dinosaurs, Grant thought. After 150 years of research and excavation all around the world, they still knew almost nothing about what the dinosaurs had really been like. "We've got to go," Ellie said, "if we're going to get the show to by 5.
Oh, I forgot to click over to Ellie.
Hammond. Gennaro's secretary bustled in with a new suitcase. It still had the sales tags on it. "You know, Mr. Gennaro," she said severely, "when you forget to pack, it makes me think you don't really want to go on this trip." "Maybe you're right," Gennaro said. "I'm missing my kid's birthday." Saturday was Amanda's birthday, and Elizabeth had invited 20 screaming 4-year-olds to share it, as well as Cappy the clown and a magician. His wife hadn't been happy to hear that Gennaro was going out of town. Neither had Amanda. "Well, I did the best I could on short
and then he
notice,"
never comes
his secretary
back.
said. "There's running shoes your size, and khaki shorts and shirts, and a shaving kit. A pair of jeans and a sweatshirt if it gets cold. The car is downstairs to take you to the airport. You have to leave now to make the flight." She left. Gennaro walked down the hallway, tearing the sales tags off the suitcase.
No. See, here's my thing.
As he passed the
They might be a lawyer, but they were also told, like, hey, if anything goes wrong with it, burn it all down. And, like, that probably should have happened. We're gonna overlay the music with it.
Glass conference room, Dan Ross left the table and came outside. "Have a good trip," Ross said. "But let's be very clear about one thing."
That should have been the warning sign to leave.
"I don't know how bad this situation actually is, Donald, but if there's a problem on that island, burn it to the ground."
Oh.
Jesus, Dan, we're talking about a big investment. Don't hesitate. Don't think about it. Just do it. Hear me? Gennaro nodded. "I hear you," he said. "But Hammond—" "Screw Hammond," Ross said. My boy," the familiar raspy voice said. "How have you been, my boy?" "Very well, sir," Gennaro replied. He leaned back in the padded leather chair of the Gulfstream II jet as it flew east toward the Rocky Mountains. "You never call me any more," Hammond said reproachfully. "I've missed you, Donald. How is your lovely wife?" "She's fine. Elizabeth's fine. We have a little girl now." "Wonderful, wonderful. Children are such a delight. She'd get a kick out of our new park in Costa Rica." Gennaro had forgotten how short Hammond was. As he sat in the chair, his feet didn't touch the carpeting. He swung his legs as he talked. There was a childlike quality
He really is Doug Dimmadome.
to the man, even though Hammond must now be, 75, 76, something like that. He looked older than Gennaro remembered, but then Gennaro hadn't seen him for almost 5 years. Hammond was flamboyant, a born showman. And back in 1983, he had an elephant that he carried around with him in a little cage. The elephant was 9 inches high and a foot long and perfectly formed, except his tusks were stunted. Hammond took the elephant with him to fundraising meetings. Gennaro usually carried it into the room, the cage covered with a little blanket like a tea cozy, and Hammond would give his usual speech about the prospects for developing what he called consumer biologicals. Then, at the dramatic moment, Hammond would whip away the blanket to reveal the elephant, and he would ask for money. The elephant would...
Like classic cyberpunk bad guy behavior? Oh, absolutely.
was always a
The way he does not actually give a fuck about his grandkids is wild.
rousing success. Its tiny body, hardly bigger than a cat's, promised untold wonders to come from the laboratory of Norman Atherton, the Stanford geneticist who was Hammond's partner in the new venture. But as Hammond talked about the elephant, he left a great deal unsaid. For example, Hammond was starting a genetics company, but the tiny elephant hadn't been made by any genetic procedure. Atherton had simply taken a dwarf elephant embryo and raised it in an artificial womb with hormonal modifications. That in itself was quite an achievement, but nothing like what Hammond hinted had been done. Also, Atherton hadn't been able to duplicate his miniature elephant, and he'd tried. For one thing...
Yeah, absolutely horrifying, Dorothy. I completely agree. It's like, huh? You did what?
Everybody who saw the elephant wanted one. Then, too, the elephant was prone to colds, particularly during winter. The sneezes coming through the little trunk filled Hammond with dread. And sometimes the elephant would get his tusks stuck between the bars of the cage and snort irritably as he tried to get free. Sometimes he got infections around the tusk line. Hammond
Just casually builds an artificial womb and no one talks about it. Yeah, everybody's like, oh yeah, it's a feat. It's alright, but it's not actual, like, biotech. It's like, bro, what?
always fretted that his elephant would die before Atherton could grow a replacement. Hammond also concealed from prospective investors the
grow a replacement.
fact that the elephant's behavior had changed substantially in the process of miniaturization. The little creature might look like an elephant, but he acted like a vicious rodent, quick-moving and mean-tempered. Hammond discouraged people from petting the elephant to avoid nipped fingers. And although Hammond spoke confidently of $7 billion in annual revenues by 1993, his project was intensely speculative. Hammond had vision and enthusiasm, but there was no certainty that his plan would work.
I never even thought about it that way. Oh.
At all, particularly since Norman Atherton, the brains behind the project, had terminal cancer, which was a final point Hammond neglected to mention. Even so, with Gennaro's help, Hammond got his money. Between September of 1983 and November of 1985, John Alfred Hammond and his pachyderm portfolio raised $870 million in venture capital to finance his proposed corporation, International Genetic Technologies Incorporated. And they could have raised more, except Hammond insisted on absolute secrecy, and he offered no return on capital for at least 5 years. That scared a lot of investors off. In the end...
Oh yeah, elephant size usually makes them immune to cancer since they're so big? What? I had no idea about that.
They'd had to take mostly Japanese consortia. The Japanese were the only investors who had the patience. Sitting in the leather chair of the jet, Gennaro thought about how...
Okay, that's pretty sick. I had no idea. They do, but it doesn't kill them? Oh, wow. So it's just like... What is it, malign? Malignant?
Evasive Hammond was. The old man was now ignoring the fact that Gennaro's law firm had forced this trip on him. Instead, Hammond behaved as if they were engaged in a purely social outing. "It's too bad you didn't bring your family with you, Donald," he said. Gennaro shrugged. "It's my daughter's birthday. 20 kids already scheduled. The cake and the clown, you know how it is."
They are so massive, the tumors can't ever get big enough. Oh.
"Oh, I understand," Hammond said.
That's wild.
"Kids set their hearts on things." "Anyway, is the park ready for visitors?" Gennaro asked. "Well, not officially," Hammond said.
I'm so bad
"But the hotel is built, so there is a place to stay." "And the animals?" "Of course, the animals are all there, all in their spaces." Gennaro said, "I remember in the original proposal you were hoping for a total of 12... "Oh, we're far beyond that. We have 238 animals, Donald." 238? The old man giggled, pleased at Gennaro's reaction. "You can't imagine it. We have herds of them." 238? How many species? 15 different species, Donald. "That's incredible," Gennaro said. "That's fantastic. And what about all the other things you wanted? The facilities, the computers?" "All of it, all of it."
Kyle Hill did an episode on cancer and how big animals are effectively immune to it. I forget how much mass is needed. There's a sliding scale. That's really cool. I think I follow him on YouTube, so I'll have to check that out.
Of it, Hammond said. Everything on that island is state of the art. You'll see for yourself, Donald. It's perfectly wonderful. That's why this concern is so misplaced. There's absolutely no problem with the island. Gennaro said, then there should be absolutely no problem with an inspection. And there isn't, Hammond said, but it slows things down. Everything has to stop for the official visit. You've had delays anyway. You've postponed the opening. Oh, that. Hammond tugged at the red silk handkerchief in the breast pocket of his sport coat. It was bound to happen. Bound to happen.
At the end of this chapter, I'm going to pause it so I can go. I want snacks.
Why? Gennaro asked. Well, Donald, Hammond said, to explain that, you have to go back to the initial concept of the resort. The concept of the most advanced amusement park in the world, combining the latest electronic and biological technologies. I'm not talking about rides. Everybody has rides. Coney Island has rides. And these days, everybody has animatronic environments. The haunted house, the pirate den, the Wild West, the earthquake. Everyone has those things. So we set out to make biological attractions, living attractions. Attractions so astonishing they would capture the imagination of the entire world. Gennaro had to smile. It was almost the same speech, word for word, that he had used on the investors so many years ago. And we can never forget the ultimate object of the project in Costa Rica, to make money, Hammond said, staring out the windows of the jet. Lots and lots of money. I remember, Gennaro said. And the secret to making money in a park, Hammond said, is to limit your personnel costs. The food handlers, ticket takers, cleanup crew.
Oh my god, he's like, you know what? Let's let AI do all the jobs. Guys, we need to keep costs down, as little employees as humanly possible. Thank you. What a capitalist scumbag.
Crews, repair teams, to make a park that runs with minimal staff. That was why we invested in all the
He would hate unions. John Hammond would hate unions.
Computer technology. We automated wherever we could. I remember. But the plain fact is, Hammond said, when you put together all the animals and all the computer systems, you run into snags. Who ever got a major computer system up and running on schedule? Nobody I know. So you've just had normal startup delays? Yes, that's right, Hammond said. Normal delays. I heard there were accidents during construction, Gennaro said. Some workmen died. Yes, there were several accidents, Hammond said, and a total of 3 deaths. 2 workers died building the Cliff Road. 1 other died as a result of an earth mover accident in January. But we haven't had any accidents for months now. He put his hand on the younger man's arm. Donald, he said, believe me when I tell you that everything on the island is going forward as planned. Everything on that island is perfectly fine. The intercom clicked. The pilot said, "Seatbelts, please. We're landing in Shoto." End of side 2.
Okay. Pausing it. Turning up the music. Going to the bathroom. Getting some snackage. I will be right back. I'm back. I got a water ice.
Side 3. Choto. Dry plains stretched away toward distant black buttes. The afternoon wind blew dust and tumbleweed across the cracked concrete. Grant stood with Ellie near the jeep and waited while the sleek Grumman jet circled for a landing. "I hate to wait on the money men," Grant grumbled. Ellie shrugged. "Goes with a job." Although many fields of science, such as physics and chemistry, had become federally funded, paleontology remained strongly dependent on private patrons. Quite apart from his own curiosity about the island in Costa Rica, Grant understood that if John Hammond asked for his help, he would give it. That was how patronage worked, how it had always worked. The little jet landed and rolled quickly toward them. Ellie shouldered her bag. The jet came to a stop, and a stewardess in a blue uniform opened the door. Inside, he was surprised at how cramped it was, despite the luxurious appointments. Grant had to hunch over as he went to shake Hammond's hand. "Dr. Grant and Dr. Sattler," Hammond said. "It's good of you to join us. Allow me to introduce my associate, Donald Gennaro." Gennaro was a stocky, muscular man in his mid-30s. Wearing an Armani suit and wire-frame glasses, Grant disliked him on sight. He shook hands quickly. When Ellie shook hands, Gennaro said in surprise, "You're a woman." "These things happen," she said, and Grant thought, she doesn't like him either. Hammond turned to Gennaro. "You know, of course, what Dr. Grant and Dr. Sattler do."
Gennaro is so slimy. I don't know if I get that vibe yet. I feel like he's just trying to be the best lawyer he can be.
"They're paleontologists. They dig up dinosaurs." And then he began to laugh as if he found the idea very funny. "Take your seats, please," the stewardess said, closing the door. Immediately, the plane began to move. "You'll have to excuse us," Hammond said, "but we are in a bit of a rush. Donald thinks it's important we get right down there." The pilot announced 4 hours flying time to Dallas, where they would refuel.
In an Armani suit, headed to Costa Rica in the 90s? I don't know anything about Armani suits in the 90s, or the temperature of Costa Rica. I only know global warming.
And then go on to Costa Rica, arriving the following morning. "And how long will we be?"
Also, God forbid a girlie has some hobbies, okay? People are allowed to dress nicely.
Costa Rica, Grant asked. "Well, that really depends," Gennaro said. "We have a few things to clear up." "Take my word for it," Hammond said, turning to Grant. "We'll be down there no more than 48 hours. Grant buckled his seatbelt. "This island of yours that we're going to, I haven't heard anything about it before. Is it some kind of secret?" "In a way," Hammond said. "We have been very, very careful about making sure nobody knows about it until the day we finally open that island to a surprised and delighted public." Target of opportunity. The Biosyn Corporation of Cupertino, California, had never called an emergency meeting of its board of directors. The 10 directors now sitting in the conference room were irritable and impatient. It was 8 p.m. They had been talking among themselves for the last 10 minutes, but slowly had fallen silent, shuffling papers, looking pointedly at their watches. "What are we waiting for?" one asked. "One more," Louis Dodgson said. "We need one more." He glanced at his watch. Ron Meyer's office had said he was coming up on the 6 o'clock plane from San Diego. He should be here by now, even allowing for traffic from the airport. "You need a quorum?" another director asked. "Yes," Dodgson said, "we do." That shut them up for a moment. A quorum meant that they were going to be asked to make an important decision. And God knows they were. although Dodgson would have preferred not to call a meeting at all. But Steingarten, the head of Biosyn, was adamant. "You'll have to get their agreement for this one, Lou," he had said. Depending on who you talk to, Louis Dodgson was famous as the most aggressive geneticist of his generation or the most reckless. 34, balding, hawk-faced, and intense, he had been dismissed by Johns Hopkins as a graduate student for planning gene therapy on human patients without obtaining the proper FDA protocol.
That's fucked up.
Hired by Biosyn, he had conducted the controversial rabies vaccine test in Chile. Now he was the head of product development at Biosyn, which supposedly consisted of reverse engineering, taking a competitor's product, tearing it apart, learning how it worked, and then making your own version. In practice, it involved industrial espionage, much of it directed toward the InGen Corporation. In the 1980s, a few genetic engineering companies began to ask, what is the biological equivalent of a Sony Walkman? These companies weren't interested in pharmaceuticals or health. They were interested in entertainment, sports, leisure activities, cosmetics, and pets. The perceived demand for consumer biologicals in the 1990s was high. InGen and Biosyn were both at work in this field. Biosyn had already achieved some success, engineering a new pale trout. This trout was easier to spot in streams and was said to represent a step forward in angling. At least it eliminated complaints to the Fish and Game Department that there were no trout in the streams. The fact that the
If they were easier to spot when fishing, wouldn't that also make them easier to, like, run out of? Like, how often are they breeding? Because, like, there's a reason trout are that color.
Trout sometimes died of sunburn, and that its flesh was soggy and tasteless was not discussed.
Yeah.
Biosyn was still working on that.
But they didn't think that far. Yeah, that's so dumb. Like, there's a reason evolution made it that way.
The door opened and Ron Meyer entered the room, slipped into a seat. Dodgson now had his quorum. He immediately stood. "Gentlemen," he said, "we're here tonight to consider a target of opportunity, InGen." Dodgson quickly reviewed the background. InGen's startup in 1983 with Japanese investors, the purchase of 3 Cray XMP supercomputers, the purchase of Isla Nublar in Costa Rica, the stockpiling of amber, the unusual donations to zoos around the world, from the New York Zoological Society to the Ranthambore Wildlife Park in India. "Despite all these clues," Dodgson said, "we still had no idea where InGen might be going. The company seemed obviously focused on animals, and they had hired researchers with an interest in the past, paleobiologists, DNA phylogeneticists, and so on. Then in 1987, InGen bought an obscure company called Millipore Plastic Products in Nashville, Tennessee. This was an agribusiness company that had recently patented a new plastic with the characteristics of an avian eggshell. This plastic could be shaped into an egg and used to grow chick embryos. Starting the following year, InGen took the entire output of this Millipore plastic for its own use. Dr. Dodgson, this is all very interesting. At the same time, Dodgson continued, construction was begun on Isla Nublar. This involved massive earthworks, including a shallow lake 2 miles long in the center of the island. Plans for resort facilities were let out with a high degree of confidentiality. But it appears that InGen has built a private zoo of large dimensions on the island. One of the directors leaned forward and said, "Dr. Dodgson, so what?" "It's not an ordinary zoo," Dodgson said. "This zoo is unique in the world. It seems that InGen has done something quite extraordinary. They have managed to clone extinct animals from the past." "What animals?" "Animals that hatch from eggs, and that require a lot of room in a zoo." "What animals?" "Dinosaurs," Dodgson said.
Dinosaurs.
"They are cloning dinosaurs." The consternation that followed was entirely misplaced in Dodgson's view. The trouble with money men was that they didn't keep up. They had invested in a field, but they didn't know what was possible. In fact, there had been discussion of cloning dinosaurs in the technical literature as far back as 1982. With each passing year, the manipulation of DNA had grown easier. Genetic material had already been extracted from Egyptian mummies and from the hide of a quagga, a zebra-like African animal that had become extinct in the 1880s. By 1985, it seemed possible that quagga DNA might be reconstituted and a new animal grown. If so, it would be the first creature brought back from extinction solely by reconstruction of its DNA. If that was possible, what else was also possible? The mastodon? The saber-toothed tiger? The dodo?
The dodo?
Or even a dinosaur? Of course, no dinosaur DNA was known to exist anywhere in the world, but by grinding up large quantities of dinosaur bones, it might be possible to extract fragments of DNA. Formerly, it was thought that fossilization eliminated all DNA. Now, that was recognized as untrue. If enough DNA fragments were recovered, it might be possible to clone a living animal. Back in 1982, the technical problems had seemed daunting, but there was no theoretical barrier. It was merely difficult, expensive, and unlikely to work, yet it was certainly possible, if anyone cared to try. InGen had apparently decided to try. What they have done, Dodgson said, is build the greatest single tourist attraction in the history of the world. As you know, zoos are extremely popular. Last year, more Americans visited zoos than all professional baseball and football games combined. And the Japanese love zoos. There are 50 zoos in Japan and more being built. And for this zoo, InGen can charge whatever they want. $2,000 a day, $10,000 a day. And then there is the merchandising, the picture books, T-shirts, video games, caps, stuffed toys, comic books, and pets. Pets? Of course. If InGen can make life-size dinosaurs, they can also make pygmy dinosaurs as household pets. What child won't want a little dinosaur as a pet, a little patented animal for their very own? InGen will sell millions of them. And InGen will engineer them so that these pet dinosaurs can only eat InGen pet food. Jesus, somebody said. Exactly, Dodgson said. The zoo is the centerpiece of an enormous enterprise. You said these dinosaurs will be patented? Yes. Genetically engineered animals can now be patented. The Supreme Court ruled on that in favor of Harvard in 1987. InGen will own its dinosaurs, and no one else can legally make them. Well, what prevents us from creating our own dinosaurs? Someone said. Nothing, except that they have a 5-year start. It'll be almost impossible to catch up before the end of the century. He paused. Of course, if we could obtain examples of their dinosaurs, we could reverse engineer them and make our own, with enough modifications in the DNA to evade their patents. Can we obtain examples of their dinosaurs?
Can we?
Dodgson paused. I believe we can, yes. Somebody cleared his throat. There wouldn't be anything illegal about it. Oh, no, Dodgson said quickly. Nothing illegal.
Nothing illegal.
I'm talking about a legitimate source of their DNA. A disgruntled employee or some trash improperly disposed of, something like that. Do you have a legitimate source, Dr. Dodgson? I do, Dodgson said. But I'm afraid there is some urgency to the decision because InGen is experiencing a small crisis, and my source will have to act within the next 24 hours.
Yeah, you said Tim should be
A long silence descended over the room. The men looked at the secretary, taking notes, and the tape recorder on the table in front of her. I don't see the need for a formal resolution on this, Dodgson said. Just a sense of the room as to whether you feel I should proceed. Slowly, the heads nodded. Nobody spoke. Nobody went on record. They just nodded silently. Thank you for coming, gentlemen, Dodgson said. I'll take it from here. Airport. Louis Dodgson entered the coffee shop in the departure building of the San Francisco airport and looked around quickly. His man was already there, waiting at the counter. Dodgson sat down next to him and placed the briefcase on the floor between them. "You're late, pal," the man said. He looked at the straw hat Dodgson was wearing and laughed. "What is this supposed to be, a disguise?" "You never know," Dodgson said, suppressing his anger. For 6 months, Dodgson had patiently cultivated this man, who had grown more obnoxious and arrogant with each meeting. But there was nothing Dodgson could do about that. Both men knew exactly what the stakes were. Bioengineered DNA was, weight for weight, the most valuable material in the world. A single microscopic bacterium too small to see with the naked eye, but containing the genes for a heart attack enzyme streptokinase or for ice minus, which prevented frost damage to crops, might be worth $5 billion to the right buyer. And that fact of life had created a bizarre new world of industrial espionage. Dodgson was especially skilled at it. In 1987, he convinced a disgruntled geneticist to quit CETUS for Biosyn and take 5 strains of engineered bacteria with her. The geneticist simply put a drop of each on the fingernails of one hand and walked out the door. But InGen presented a tougher challenge. Dodgson wanted more than bacterial DNA. He wanted frozen embryos. And he knew InGen guarded its embryos with the most elaborate security measures. To obtain them, he needed an InGen employee who had access to the embryos, who was willing to steal them, and who could defeat the security. Such a person was not easy to find. Dodgson had finally located a susceptible InGen employee earlier in the year. Although this particular person had no access to genetic material, Dodgson kept up the contact, meeting the man monthly at Carlos and Charlie's in Silicon Valley, helping him in small ways. And now that InGen was inviting contractors and advisors to visit the island, it was the moment that Dodgson had been waiting for, because it meant his man would have access to embryos. "Let's get down to it," the man said. "I've got 10 minutes before my flight." "You want to go over it again?" Dodgson said. "Hell no, Dr. Dodgson," the man said. "I want to see the damn money." Dodgson flipped the latch on the briefcase and opened it a few inches. The man glanced down casually. "That's all of it?" "That's half of it. $750,000. "Okay, fine." The man turned away, drank his coffee. "That's fine, Dr. Dodgson." Dodgson quickly locked the briefcase. "That's for all 15 species, you remember." "I remember. 15 species, frozen embryos. And how am I going to transport them?" Dodgson handed the man a large can of Gillette foamy shaving cream. "That's it? That's it. They may check my luggage." Dodgson shrugged. "Press the top," he said.
This is back when you used to be able to take anything more than like a travel shampoo size on an airplane.
The man pressed it, and white shaving cream puffed into his hand. "Huh, not bad." He wiped the foam on the edge of his plate. "Not bad. The can's a little heavier than usual is all." Dodgson's technical team had been assembling it around the clock for the last 2 days. Quickly, he showed him how it worked. "How much cooler—"
I thought his name was Dawson, not Dogson. Dodson? Yeah, I guess it's just however you want to read it. You know, no judgment here. Resand, Rysand, Reese, Rice. However you want to do it.
Coolant gas is inside. Enough for 36 hours. The embryos have to be back in San Jose by then. "That's up to your guy on the boat," the man said. "Better make sure he has a portable cooler on board." "I'll do that," Dodgson said. "And let's just review the bidding." "The deal is the same," Dodgson said. $50,000 on delivery of each embryo. If they're viable, an additional $50,000 each. "That's fine. Just make sure you have the boat waiting at the east dock of the island Friday night. Not the north dock, where the big supply boats arrive. The east dock. It's a small utility dock. You got that?"
Here.
"I got it," Dodgson said. "When will you be back in San Jose?" "Probably Sunday." The man pushed away from the counter. Dodgson fretted. "You're sure you know how to work the—" "I know," the man said. "Believe me, I know. Also, Dodgson said, we think the island maintains constant radio contact with InGen corporate headquarters in California, so look, I've got it covered, the man said. Just relax and get the money ready. I want it all Sunday morning in San Jose Airport in cash. It'll be waiting for you, Dodgson said. Don't worry. Malcolm. Shortly before midnight, he stepped on the plane at the Dallas airport. A tall, thin, balding man of 35, dressed entirely in black. Black shirt, black trousers, black socks, black sneakers. "Ah, Dr. Malcolm," Hammond said, smiling with forced graciousness. Malcolm grinned. "Hello, John. Yes, I'm afraid your old nemesis is here." Malcolm shook hands with everyone, saying quickly, "Ian Malcolm, how do you do? I do maths." He struck Grant as being more amused by the outing than anything else. Certainly Grant recognized his name. Ian Malcolm was one of the most famous of the new generation of mathematicians who were openly interested in how the real world works. These scholars broke with the cloistered tradition of mathematics in several important ways. For one thing, they used computers constantly, a practice traditional mathematicians frowned on. For another, they worked almost exclusively with nonlinear equations in the emerging field called chaos theory. For a third, they appeared to care that their mathematics described something that actually existed in the real world. And finally, as if to emphasize their emergence from academia into the world, they dressed and spoke with what one senior mathematician called a deplorable excess of personality. In fact, they often behaved like rock stars. Malcolm sat in one of the padded chairs. The stewardess asked him if he wanted a drink. He said, "Diet Coke, shaken, not stirred." Humid Dallas air drifted through the open door. Ellie said, "Isn't it a little warm for black?" "You're extremely pretty, Dr. Sattler," he said.
Damn.
"I could look at your legs all day."
Oh my
but
God.
No, as a matter of fact, black is...
This sexism. Well, it's not really sexism. It's just more of like the, why? Why do you need to talk about how she looks? You didn't talk about how Grant looks. You weren't like, "Oh, Grant, nice beard. That's hot, daddy." Like, no, you didn't say that. You went straight after the girly pop. Why? God, I hate it.
Is an excellent color for heat. If you remember your black body radiation, black is actually best in heat. Efficient radiation. In any case, I wear only two colors, black and gray. Ellie was staring at him, her mouth open. "These colors are appropriate for any occasion," Malcolm continued, "and they go well together, should I mistakenly put on a pair of gray socks with my black trousers." "But don't you find it boring to wear only two colors?" "Not at all. I find it liberating. I believe my life has value, and I don't want to waste it thinking about clothing," Malcolm said. "I don't want to think about what I will wear in the morning."
Yeah, see, if it wasn't like sexist, he would also compliment Grant. Like, why is she the only one that gets a compliment? And also, this is like the third man that has like had their jaw dropped to this lady. It's like, stop. Contain yourselves.
Truly, can you imagine anything more boring than fashion? Professional sports, perhaps. Grown men swatting little balls while the rest of the world pays money to applaud. But on the whole, I find fashion even more tedious than sports. "Dr. Malcolm," Hammond explained, "is a man of strong opinions." "And mad as a hatter," Malcolm said cheerfully. "But you must admit, these are non-trivial issues. We live in a world of frightful givens. It is given that you will behave like this, given that you will care about that. No one thinks about the givens. Isn't it amazing? In the information society, nobody thinks. We expected to banish paper, but we actually banished thought." Hammond turned to Gennaro and raised his hands.
That hits so
"You
hard.
invited him. And a lucky thing, too," Malcolm said, "because it sounds as if you have a serious problem." "We have no problem," Hammond said quickly. "I always maintained this island would be unworkable," Malcolm said. "I predicted it from the beginning." He reached into a soft leather briefcase. And I trust by now we all know what the eventual outcome is going to be. You're going to have to shut the thing down.
Shut it down?
Hammond stood angrily. This is ridiculous. Malcolm shrugged, indifferent to Hammond's outburst. I brought copies of my original paper for you to look at, he said. The original consultancy paper I did for InGen. The mathematics are a bit sticky, but I can walk you through it. Are you leaving now?
I have some phone calls to make,
Hammond said, and went into the adjoining cabin. Well, it's a long flight, Malcolm said to the others. At least my paper will give you something to do. The plane flew through the night. Grant knew that he and Malcolm had his share of detractors, and he could understand why some found his style too abrasive and his applications of chaos theory too glib. Grant thumbed through the paper, glancing at the equations. Gennaro said, Your paper concludes that Hammond's Island is bound to fail? Correct. Because of chaos theory? Correct. To be more precise, because of the behavior of the system in phase space.
Oh.
Gennaro tossed the paper aside and said, Can you explain this in English? Surely, Malcolm said. Let's see where we have to start. Do you know what a nonlinear equation is? No. Strange attractors? No. All right, Malcolm said. Let's go back to the beginning. He paused, staring at the ceiling. Physics has had great success at describing certain kinds of behavior. Planets in orbit, spacecraft going to the moon, pendulums and springs, and rolling balls, that sort of thing. The regular movement of objects. These are described by what are called linear equations, and mathematicians can solve those equations easily. We've been doing it for hundreds of years. Okay, Gennaro said. But there is another kind of behavior which physics handles badly. For example, anything to do with turbulence. Water coming out of a spout, air moving over an airplane wing, weather, blood flowing through the heart. Turbulent events are described by non-linear equations. They're hard to solve. In fact, they're usually impossible to solve. So, physics has never understood this whole class of events.
You are not going to understand what song is stuck in my head right now. Like, I'm over here bopping to, like... This. I also hear this when you look at Malcolm. Just me. Yeah. So sorry.
Until about 10 years ago. The new theory that describes them is called chaos theory. Chaos theory originally grew out of attempts to make computer models of weather in the 1960s. Weather is a big, complicated system, namely the Earth's atmosphere as it interacts with the land and the sun. The behavior of this big, complicated system always defied understanding, so naturally we couldn't predict weather. But what the early researchers learned from computer models was that even if you could understand it, you still couldn't predict it. Weather prediction is absolutely impossible. The reason is that the behavior of the system is sensitively dependent on initial conditions. You lost me, Gennaro said. If I use a cannon to fire a shell of a certain weight,
I feel like I'm making like an animated, like, you know, the like decoupages or like fan cams. Like, I feel like I'm doing a Canva version of that. Please save me. Am I mentally unwell?
at a certain speed and a certain angle of inclination, and if I then fire a second shell with almost the same weight, speed, and angle, what will happen? The two shells will land at almost the same spot. Right, Malcolm said. That's linear dynamics. Okay. But if I have a weather system that I start up with a certain temperature and a certain wind speed and a certain humidity, and if I then repeat it with almost the same temperature, wind, and humidity, the second system will not behave almost the same. It'll wander off and rapidly will become very different from the first. Thunderstorms instead of sunshine. That's nonlinear dynamics. They are sensitive to initial conditions. Tiny differences become amplified. I think I see, Gennaro said. The shorthand is the butterfly effect. A butterfly flaps its wings in Peking, and weather in New York is different. So chaos is all just random and unpredictable, Gennaro said. Is that it?
Yes.
No, Malcolm said. We actually find hidden regularities within the complex variety of a system's behavior. That's why chaos has now become a very broad theory that's used to study everything from the stock market to rioting crowds to brain waves during epilepsy. Any sort of complex system where there is confusion and unpredictability.
Oh, you can't change that
we
color,
can
never
find an underlying order. Okay? Okay, Gennaro said, but what is this underlying order? It's essentially characterized by the movement of the system within phase space, Malcolm said.
Phase?
Jesus, Gennaro said. All I want to know is
Phase
why you think
Clan?
Hammond's Island can't work.
Phase Clan in 1993?
I understand, Malcolm said. I'll get there. Chaos theory says two things. First, that complex systems like weather have an underlying order. Second, the reverse of that simple systems can produce complex behavior. You hit a pool ball and it starts to carom off the sides of the table. In theory, that's a fairly simple system, almost a Newtonian system. Since you can know the force imparted to the ball and the mass of the ball, and you can calculate the angles at which it will strike the walls, you can predict the future behavior of the ball. In theory, you could predict the behavior of the ball far into the future as it keeps bouncing from side to side. You could predict where it will end up 3 hours from now, in theory. Okay, Gennaro nodded. But in fact, Malcolm said, it turns out you can't predict more than a few seconds into the future. Because almost immediately, very small effects, imperfections in the surface of the ball, tiny indentations in the wood of the table, start to make a difference. And it doesn't take long before they overpower your careful calculations. So it turns out that this simple system of a pool ball on a table has unpredictable behavior. Okay. And Hammond's project, Malcolm said, is another apparently simple system. Animals within a zoo environment that will eventually show unpredictable behavior. You know this because of theory, Malcolm said. But hadn't you better see the island to see what he's actually done? No, that is quite unnecessary. The details don't matter. Theory tells me that the island will quickly proceed to behave in unpredictable fashion. And you're confident of your theory? Oh, yes, Malcolm said, totally confident. He sat back in the chair. There is a problem with that island. It is an accident waiting to happen. Isla Nublar. With a whine, the rotors began to swing in circles overhead, casting shadows on the runway of San Jose Airport. Grant listened to the crackle in his earphones as the pilot talked to the tower. They had picked up another passenger in San Jose, a man named Dennis Nedry, who had flown in to meet them. He was fat and sloppy, eating a candy bar, and there was sticky chocolate on his fingers and flecks of aluminum foil on his shirt. Nedry had mumbled something about doing computers on the island and hadn't offered to shake hands. Through the plexi bubble, Grant watched the airport concrete drop away beneath his feet, and he saw the shadow of the helicopter racing along as they went west toward the mountains. "It's about a 40-minute trip," Hammond said from one of the rear seats. Grant watched the low hills rise up, and then they were passing through intermittent clouds breaking out into sunshine. The mountains were rugged, though he was surprised at the amount of deforestation. Acre after acre of denuded, eroded hills. Costa Rica, Hammond said, has better population control than other countries in Central America. But even so, the land is badly deforested. Most of this is within the last 10 years. They came down out of the clouds on the other side of the mountains, and Grant saw the beaches of the west coast. They flashed over a small coastal village. Bahia Nasco, the pilot said. Fishing village. He pointed north. Up the coast there, you see the Cabo Blanco Preserve. They have beautiful beaches. The pilot headed straight out over the ocean. The water turned green, and then deep aquamarine. The sun shone on the water. It was about 10 in the morning. Just a few minutes now, Hammond said, and we should be seeing Isla Nublar. Isla Nublar, Hammond explained, was not a true island. Rather, it was a seamount, a volcanic upthrusting of rock from the ocean floor. Its volcanic origins can be seen all over the island, Hammond said. There are steam vents in many places, and the ground is often hot underfoot. Because of this, and also because of prevailing currents, Isla Nublar lies in a foggy area. As we get there, you will see... Ah, there we are! The helicopter rushed forward, low to the water. Ahead, Grant saw an island, rugged and craggy, rising sharply from the ocean. Christ, it looks like Alcatraz, Malcolm said. Its forested slopes were wreathed in fog, giving the island a mysterious appearance.
Here.
Much larger, of course, Hammond said. 8 miles long and 3 miles wide at the widest point. In total, some
right
22
here.
square miles, making it the largest private animal preserve in North America. The helicopter began to climb and headed toward the north end of the island. Grant was trying to see through the dense fog. It's not usually this thick, Hammond said. He sounded worried. At the north end of the island, the hills were highest, rising more than 2,000 feet above the ocean. The tops of the hills were in fog, but Grant saw rugged cliffs and crashing ocean below. The helicopter climbed above the hills. Unfortunately, Hammond said, we have to land on the island. I don't like to do it because it disturbs the animals. And it's sometimes a bit thrilling. Hammond's voice cut off as the pilot said, starting our descent now. Hang on, folks. The helicopter started down, and immediately they were blanketed in fog. Grant heard a repetitive electronic beeping through his earphones.
This might be too
but
much.
he could see nothing at all. Then he began dimly to discern the green branches of pine trees reaching through the mist. Some of the branches were close. How the hell is he doing this? Malcolm said, but nobody answered. The pilot swung his gaze left, then right, looking at the pine forest. The trees were still close. The helicopter descended rapidly. Jesus, Malcolm said. The beeping was louder. Grant looked at the pilot. He was concentrating. Grant glanced down and saw a giant, glowing fluorescent cross beneath the plexi bubble at his feet. There were flashing lights at the corners of the cross. The pilot corrected slightly and touched down on a helipad. The sound of the rotors faded and died. Grant sighed and released his seatbelt. We have to come down fast that way, Hammond said, because of the wind shear. There is often bad wind shear on this peak, and, well, we're safe. Someone was running up to the helicopter, a man with a baseball cap and red hair. He threw open the door and said cheerfully, Hi, I'm Ed Regis.
No, fuck that
Welcome
guy.
to Isla Nublar, everybody. And watch your step, please.
He stole that
A narrow
doctor's camera.
path wound down the hill. The air was chilly and damp. As they moved lower, the mist around them thinned, and Grant could see the landscape better. It looked, he thought, rather like the Pacific Northwest, the Olympic Peninsula. That's right, Regis said. Primary ecology is deciduous rainforest, rather different from the vegetation on the mainland, which is more classical rainforest.
I've decided...
But this is a microclimate that only occurs at elevation.
I've decided that we're going to do it D&D style, where we look down at the map of all the characters. That will also be helpful.
On the slopes of the northern hills, the majority of the island is tropical.
Here, this way.
Down below, they could see the white roofs of large buildings nestled among the planting. Grant was surprised. The construction was elaborate. They moved lower out of the mist, and now he could see the full extent of the island stretching away to the south. As Regis had said, it was mostly covered in tropical forest. To the south, rising above the palm trees, Grant saw a single trunk with no leaves at all, just a big curving stump.
Over this way.
Then the stump moved and twisted around to face the new arrivals. Grant realized that he was not seeing a tree at all. He was looking at the graceful, curving neck of an enormous creature rising 50 feet into the air. He was looking at a dinosaur.
At a dinosaur.
Welcome. My God, Ellie said softly. They were all staring at the animal above the trees. My God. Her first thought was that the dinosaur was extraordinarily beautiful. Books portrayed them as oversized, dumpy creatures, but this long-necked animal had a gracefulness, almost a dignity about its movements, and it was quick. There was nothing lumbering.
So they're looking here, right here, at this giant red dot in the south. That right here. This is where they're looking.
Or dull in its behavior. The sauropod peered alertly at them and made a low trumpeting sound, rather like an elephant. A moment later, a second head rose above the foliage, and then a third, and a fourth. My God, Ellie said again. Gennaro was speechless. He had known all along what to expect. He had known about it for years, but he had somehow never believed it would happen. And now he was shocked into silence. The awesome power of the new genetic technology, which he had formerly considered to be just so many words in an overwrought sales pitch, the power suddenly became clear to him. These animals were so big. They were enormous, big as a house, and so many of them. Actual damn dinosaurs, just as real as you could want. Gennaro thought, we are going to make a fortune on this place, a fortune. He hoped to God the island was safe. Grant stood on the path on the side of the hill with a mist on his face, staring at the gray necks craning above the palms. He felt dizzy, as if the ground were sloping away too steeply. He had trouble getting his breath, because he was looking at something he had never expected to see in his life. Yet he was seeing it. The animals in the mist were perfect apatosaurs, medium-sized sauropods. His stunned mind made academic associations. North American herbivores, late Jurassic horizon, commonly called brontosaurs, first discovered by E.D. Cope in Montana in 1876. Specimens associated with Morrison Formation strata in Colorado, Utah, and Oklahoma. Recently, Berman and McIntosh had reclassified it as a Diplodocus based on skull appearance. Traditionally, Brontosaurus was thought to spend most of its time in shallow water, which would help support its large bulk. Although this animal was clearly not in the water, it was moving much too quickly, the head and neck shifting above the palms in a very active manner, a surprisingly active manner. Grant began to laugh. "What is it?" Hammond said, worried. "Is something wrong?" Grant just shook his head and continued to laugh. He couldn't tell them that what was funny was that he had seen the animal for only a few seconds, but he had already begun to accept it, and to use his observations to answer long-standing questions in the field. He was still laughing as he saw a fifth and a sixth neck crane up above the palm trees. The sauropods watched the people arrive. They reminded Grant of oversized giraffes. They had the same pleasant, rather stupid gaze. "I take it they're not animatronic," Malcolm said. "They're very lifelike." "Yes, they certainly are," Hammond said. "Well, they should be, shouldn't they?" From the distance, they heard the trumpeting sound again. First one animal made it, and then the others joined in. "That's their call," Ed Regis said, "welcoming us to the island." Grant stood and listened for a moment, entranced. "You probably want to know what happens next," Hammond was saying, continuing down the path. We've scheduled a complete tour of the facilities for you, and a trip to see the dinosaurs in the park later this afternoon. I'll be joining you for dinner, and will answer any remaining questions you may have then. Now, if you'll go with Mr. Regis." The group followed Ed Regis toward the nearest buildings. Over the path, a crude hand-painted sign read, "Welcome to Jurassic Park."
All right, these guys are grouped together.
Third iteration. Details emerge more clearly as the fractal curve is redrawn. Ian Malcolm. Jurassic Park. They moved into a green tunnel of overarching palms, leading toward the main visitor building. Everywhere, extensive and elaborate planting emphasized the feeling that they were entering a new world, a prehistoric tropical world, and leaving the normal world behind. Ellie said to Grant, "They look pretty good." "Yes," Grant said. "I want to see them up close. I want to lift up their toe pads and inspect their claws and feel their skin and open their jaws and have a look at their teeth. Until then, I don't know for sure, but yes, they look good." "I suppose it changes your field a bit," Malcolm said. Grant shook his head. "It changes everything," he said. For 150 years, ever since the discovery of gigantic animal bones in Europe, the study of dinosaurs had been an exercise in scientific deduction. Paleontology was essentially detective work, searching for clues in the fossil bones and the trackways of the long-vanished giants. The best paleontologists were the ones who could make the most clever deductions. And all the great disputes of paleontology were carried out in this fashion, including the bitter debate, in which Grant was a key figure, about whether dinosaurs were warm-blooded. Scientists had always classified dinosaurs as reptiles, cold-blooded creatures drawing the heat they needed for life from the environment. A mammal could metabolize food to produce bodily warmth, but a reptile could not. Eventually, a handful of researchers, led chiefly by John Ostrom and Robert Baker at Yale, began to suspect that the concept of sluggish, cold-blooded dinosaurs was inadequate to explain the fossil record. In classic deductive fashion, they drew conclusions from several lines of evidence. First was posture. Lizards and reptiles were bent-legged sprawlers, hugging the ground for warmth. Lizards didn't have the energy to stand on their hind legs for more than a few seconds, but the dinosaurs stood on straight legs, and many walked erect on their hind legs. Among living animals, erect posture occurred only in warm-blooded mammals and birds. Thus, dinosaur posture suggested warm-bloodedness. Next.
Okay, I am going to call it here for the night, but I want to raid out, okay? This was super fun, but I want to raid out. So please don't leave. I'm going, unless anybody else wants to pick somebody, I'm going to pick somebody. Let's see. Okay, I think we're gonna go to Captain Mouse. Alright, everybody, I am gonna get out of here for the night. I am off tomorrow, and then I'll be back Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and we're gonna keep doing some of this Jurassic Park thing. It's so much fun. So I'm really excited. I'm glad you guys have been hanging out, and I will see you later. Bye!